Hey guys, welcome back and good to see you all here. We're going live to a developer live stream for Civilization 7. Yeah, it started a little bit ago, but the good thing about this is since we're not watching live, we can pause and do some reactions and elaborate on some stuff because I, luckily, as many other people have, been able to play the game, and I can give you some thoughts while we watch the developers talk about the Age of Antiquity. Now, this game will be coming out sometime next year. I think it was February. I forget the exact date. But hopefully, based on everybody's feedback and reactions to all the gameplay and whatnot, we can get an even better game as the developers can work to improve things, make changes. And the game's honestly not done. It's not like between now and February they're going to be sitting around now, are they? No, they're working on making a game. So we're going to tune in and see what they're doing. Of course, it says Civ Streams Antiquity Age, the Civilization 7 developer stream. So the dev will be playing. There is actual gameplay here, and they'll be talking more about that. So, but my thoughts about Civ before we jump in so far is that I was able to play I was able to play about 3 hours as Egypt, right? Yeah, and I really enjoyed the time. It was very exciting to play a Civ game again that was new. You don't often get many times where you can say it was your first time playing Civ X, you know, like whatever one it happened to be. So it was a very exciting experience. I liked it, what I had played so far, but again, 3 hours in a Civ game may as well be 1 second in any other game. It's just simply not enough time. But the things that they were telling us looked cool. I know there's a lot of concerns and worry about hopefully that they can pull this one off. A lot of people not wanting to switch societies and such, and we're getting a lot of information about how that's going to work between like the Antiquity age and the later ages in the game, and what other civilizations will become available and where they'll go with DLCs and stuff in the future. But I really like the way the game looks. Like, it's a beautiful, really beautiful looking game, and very, very gorgeous. I mean, it's just stellar at how wonderful things look, and the design of all the buildings and all the world and the resources and the oceans and the coastline, all cool. They've also scaled back the cartooniness of some of the characters, which I think was something I continuously hear from Civ 6. They look a little bit more like Civ 6, but a lot less like Civ 6. They're more 6 than 5, is what a lot of people had been mentioning, and I can't honestly remember, but I certainly think that they look good. And we've also got, of course, Aura History Untold coming out this month too. So just in a few days, we'll have another Civ-like game, or like a 4X type game, where if you're interested in Civ, you might be interested in Aura as well. So a lot of people will be playing Aura because it'll be on Game Pass, and so tons of people will have access to that. Tons of people will get that game, and it'll be interesting to see what people think about that game over the next few months before a Civ comes out. And there'll be a lot of direct comparisons, so that'll be really interesting. So, but anyway, I'm hoping that it's going to be a great game. I hope a lot of people enjoy it. I hope all the decisions that the developers make between now and then make it a better game. And I think that when we get our day one launch, hopefully like 3 or 4 months after that, with steady improvements and tweaks and updates and whatnot, it'll be even better past that, before we even see DLCs. But who knows? Anyway, let's go ahead and jump in and talk a little bit more. We'll just kind of watch in the past a little bit. They're already underway with some stuff, but we're not far behind at all. I think this stream is still going on, but oh, look at that. Notre Dame there. Some pagodas. Oh, man. I haven't really done much combat in this game yet either. I have done some. The AI forced it on me when I was playing myself. I was trying to be a little bit more civil, so that way I didn't have to bog myself down in a war, so I could explore the map and see what things look like. But got dragged into a war, man, and it was one that I started to win. I surrounded the enemy's capital, and as you'd imagine, the meme for Civilization as a whole came up where it's just one more turn. Just one more turn. That's all I wanted to defeat the enemy. So it's cool stuff. Hey, what's up, Ollie? Welcome. Good to see you. And Rachel, long time no see. Well, welcome back. I hope you're going to enjoy what you see here with all these beautiful cities. I've got to say, I really like the way that the cities look in this game. Not like the art style of the game, but like the how the buildings are kind of like broken down into, like, you can see canals there and like the different districts. And they've done a really interesting thing with trying to showcase cities evolving without it being like a hard evolve, where it's like you go from one age and the buildings look like this, and then you go to another age and like they look like that. They're trying to kind of do some sort of a transition between that. Like when you're, I think one of the examples was with the French, when you're eventually going down the French tier, buildings convert from looking like Roman buildings to more of a like a thatch style that then eventually goes into kind of more of a, well, what you saw just a moment ago there with Notre Dame, how the buildings will look at the, I'd imagine that's probably the exploration age as well. Um, we'll see if that pops up again, but yeah, it also really reminds me of how Anno 1800 looks too, with some of the buildings like that. I think it's really nice. You're not much of a fan of the Risk games. Yeah, these games do take a long time to play, and I'm very curious to see how long a game can go on where people will play between each of the ages. You know, like it's going to be more than 3 hours or 4 hours to play like the Antiquity age, and it depends on how quickly everybody plays. So I don't know. It depends on the rules. There's the buildings for the French in the background there, so you can see what it'll look like when they start adding like roof tiles and things other than thatch. So. But hey, a lot of hype and excitement. When I've recently now, when I've been looking at Civ 7, as I just mentioned a moment ago, the new Anno game. So with Anno 11.7 announced and with Civilization 7 coming around too, I'm kind of like comparing the looks of the buildings. Like I love these like how the buildings look. I love that. The little dioramas and how the cities are set up and all the lanterns and lights and stuff like that. Can't get enough of it. Can't get enough of it. So are they? They're not even playing any music. Maybe they'll kick on some music in a minute, but. Yeah, the wonders look cool too. And I don't remember how many nations we're going to get at launch, but clearly a lot more than what we've had access to play in the past. I really hope they do a demo at some point. If Civilization 7 does a demo in the next few months, I don't think this will happen. But if they do and they allow people to play through as one civilization through like the Age of Antiquity, I think there'd be a lot of I think it would kind of calm down a lot of people who have their worries, and also would allow for a lot of people to give feedback and for ample time for something to be done between its now and its release in February. But a lot of these games are all about balancing now. I think that's what they're really working on, is like making sure there's enough well, with all the different systems between trade and diplomacy and war, yeah, one small change could unravel everything, so we'll see. Oh, will there be crossplay? I honestly don't know. I don't know if there'll be crossplay in this game. I would hope so. I'm starting to feel like more games now are defaulting to having crossplay than not, but that's not set in stone. And a game like Civ, I don't know. I think it'll have a day one launch on console. So that hopefully is baked in right from the beginning. When we got the last Civ game, Civ 6, they were just kind of starting to really amp up on the whole cross play, and now we get to do it all the time. A lot of games. I'm surprised when a game doesn't have crossplay, honestly. It used to be the other way around, where it was like, oh, this game has crossplay? That's awesome. Now it's like, oh, this game doesn't have crossplay? That's weird. Like, that's how it is now. All right, we're down to about 5 minutes of clamoring and yammering. Oh, pictures look good there with the T-34 and the troops in the background. Oh, man. I'm wondering if we'll have some campaigns, too. I would love to see different scenarios created at different points. I guess you can create them yourself, but it would be ultimately fascinating to like have control a nation in like World War I, per se, like a map of Europe around no, maybe around the Victorian era, and you get to start a war before that. That'd be interesting, just to see what it would be like to set up scenarios without having to grind it out a little bit. Like to have an easy setup to be like, you know, continental Europe, this age, these nations, and then like pick starting points would be really cool. I don't remember Fate of the Dragon. I don't remember about that one. Why did the chicken cross the road? Because it didn't know that it had to, what it had to do in order to not miss a Raptor stream. Oh, you mean oh yeah, hitting the subscribe button. Gallon always baiting people in with that one. Good one, man. Good one. Hey, what's up, Earth Hugger? Good to see you too. Gallon, welcome back. Hello. And Drops, you too. Welcome. You finally got a live stream, Trauma Boss? Good. Good to hear. That's cool. And it's almost Friday, everybody. Tomorrow we got Friday. We got Frostpunk coming up next week. We got Planet Coaster 2 coming out in November. We're getting a lot of... Yeah, October seems like it's going to be a little dry. I'm hearing a lot of November release days and a lot of like the rest of this month release. Like the rest of September is going to be packed. Then I can't really think of anything October off the top of my head. And then there's a ton of stuff for November. So, and then nothing in December and January, and then right back into February again. So it seems like October, January, and February will be a little quiet. But we'll see. Hopefully I'm sure there'll be some stuff in October. It'll probably be a bunch of scary games and stuff like that. Speaking of which, I got to check on one, but we shall see. Let's see. Oh, wait. Okay. All right, cool. Locked in. You want them to remake Pirates one of these days? Oh, Sid Meier's yeah, well, you know, if Civ 7 doesn't go too well, you know, we're not really in a time where new franchises are being made. We're just dipping back into the past and recreating. So that definitely could be a thing. Oh, Silent Hill is in October. Okay, so we got ourselves more scary games in October, yeah. That makes sense. I don't know how I feel about that game. I don't even know if they remade the first game. They just jumped to Silent Hill 2. Always a confusing game. You hope they remake Transport Tycoon Deluxe. Oh, right. All right, we're about 2 minutes away. 2 minutes away. Wait, do I remember Deadlock? That would be a tremendous remake. Wait, Deadlock? Isn't that the game that, like, is in beta or something from Steam? Like, I got an invitation to it, like, a week ago or something, and I just, I don't know. I'll be honest, whenever I hear or think about Deadlock, it makes me want to go back to just the time where, like, the mid-2000s, like 2000, well, like the late mid-2000s, like 2007, 8, and 9, before the 2010s. When Team Fortress 2 was popping off. That was so much fun. I can't tell you how fun it was to just like play a shooter that wasn't Call of Duty. Like, it was before Call of Duty Modern Warfare was like super crazy big. Like, people were playing 4 and people were playing what was it? Modern Warfare 2, that's what I meant to say. But yeah, those were a lot of fun. And now we just have too many. People are just done. People, you know, that's why Concord. I mean, you could pick, when we saw the trailer for Concord, I was like, oh man, this is going to be cool. Like, they were showing the cinematics and stuff. It's like, oh, we're going to get like a new adventure game, like an open world. Wow, this feels like Ratchet and Clank. This is going to be fun. And then the moment they revealed that it was like a 4-player shooter game or whatever the hell, I was just like, I literally said dead on arrival. And I'm sad that I was right. I really wish that didn't happen. Did I see the teaser trailer for Secret Level a few weeks ago? No. That kind of reminds me of a Stanley Parable game. Which also makes me want to play that other game that I heard about that sounds like Stanley Parable, called like it's like Dawson and Drew Stationery Company or something like that. I don't know. All right, anyway, we're about 10 seconds away. We're going to see all the gameplay now from the devs. We'll do some live reactions to stuff, and hopefully we have a good stream. All right, everybody. Everybody get a 1 in the chat. Get a hand in. Helmets down to chair. Let's enjoy on 3. 1, 2, 3.
History, ordinary people have done extraordinary things.
Ooh.
Illuminating our potential. They inspired movements, created the impossible, and destroyed the indestructible. Ordinary people chose to change.
Ooh, a little live action in this one.
Chose to dream.
Oh, that train.
To hope. To always hope.
So this is cool.
Hope for one of us. There's hope for us all.
Because this is the style that they were going for with the game. They're trying to make everything seem like a little model, like tilt shift.
And build something you believe in.
That was cool. February 11th,
Good
2025.
afternoon, and welcome to the Firaxis live stream, our first live stream of Civilization VII.
I met this guy.
I'm Pete Murray. I'm going to be your host today,
Nice guy.
joined by Sarah Engel. Sarah, welcome.
Pete Murray.
You're our community manager here at Firaxis.
I am, and I am so excited to be here today.
And we've got awesome members of the Civilization VII development team with us today. We have Andrew Fredrickson, the lead producer of Sid Meier's Civilization VII. We also have another Andrew, Dr. Andrew Johnson.
Bro, this guy reminded me that I always wanted to try an old-fashioned. We sat down to dinner and talked about the game, and he was having an old-fashioned. I was like, dude, what is that? Oh, this is an old-fashioned. I'll be right back. I went straight to the bar and got me an old-fashioned. Dude's a hero.
Our lead historian
I enjoyed that.
For Civ 7. Andrew, thanks for coming.
So thank you, Andrew and Andrew.
And joining us, the undisputed conqueror of kingdoms, the one who lays waste all before him, Carl, the Carl Barian, Harrison, designer on Civ 7.
Carl Barian.
Awesome. Well, we've got a great stream for you guys to share today. What I'm excited to tell you is that Civilization 7 is coming out on February 11th on PC and
Maybe I
consoles.
should be
Day
here.
and date 2025. That is incredibly cool. We have a great stream to show you today. We've got leaders and civs to show you. We've got a deep dive on Antiquity.
Do you guys hear
but
breathing?
that is not
I hear
all.
breathing.
We also are going to be showing you guys a sneak peek into an age transition. So moving from Antiquity age into the
Someone's mic is
Exploration
on.
age. And not only that, we're going to be showing off a little bit of Ashoka and the Moria Civ as well. We're going to be taking some time to answer some questions live from chat, so definitely ping your questions as you have them.
Bourbon,
And
bitters, orange
finally,
peel.
we are super
I have mine with
excited
whiskey,
to bring
but-
back first looks, and the first of our first looks is Hatshepsut, so absolutely stick around for the end of the stream.
All right. Well, we've talked about the Antiquity age, and ages are just a huge part of what makes Civilization 7 different from previous civilizations. So, Andrew Fredrickson, for people who are maybe new to this idea of ages, what do ages bring Civilization 7?
Ages bring so much to the franchise. These are a new way to look at the gameplay, the history that opens up so many opportunities for what we can do with content and features. And we've divided the game up now into these 3 distinct ages. And with each one, there's so much to unpack. And we're going to get today to start with the Antiquity age, the first of those. So we'll jump, I think, pretty much right into gameplay.
What gameplay? Let's
so,
go.
we
Civ
got that up on the
gameplay?
screen
Let's
here.
go. Hell yeah.
All right.
You want to tell people what we're looking at?
Yeah, so here we are at the very start of Antiquity. We're playing as Augustus of Rome. We're here on our map. We have our very first unit, and we're going to start up our civilization and advance a few turns here.
Right, and as a quick disclaimer for everybody watching, just a reminder that this is a work in progress build. Please keep that in mind as we show it off to you. We're excited, but just in case we see any funky visuals, keep that in mind. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, so our first unit here is what's called a founder. This is different from our traditional settler unit in that it creates a capital city. All our settler units, which we'll see a little bit later on in the game, now create a town. So the founder is a separate unit from the settler.
I think that's actually just a great moment to highlight how many things in this game are both familiar and new at the same time if you've been playing the franchise for a while. The things that you may see when you first start this is you would expect it to make a city. And like Carl just walked us through, there's some unique differences there. You can see that throughout the entire HUD. We've got our yields in the upper corner, and a lot of those are going to function the way that those of you who played Civ are familiar with.
Go full
Some of
screen
them
on the
are
game.
new, and others are, like the influence one we're just looking at, others have changed a little bit. Like,
Show us the
happiness
game,
is
bro.
gonna be something. It's a full yield now, and we're going to get to what that means and how that affects things a little bit later. But I think that just throughout this stream, we're going to start covering as many of those details as we can. There's going to be so much more than what we can talk about. But this is really going to be a deep dive through all of those.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, why don't we go ahead and start our capital?
Of course, yeah. So I'm going to settle right here in place. We are sitting on a minor river. We have 2 kinds of rivers in Civilization 7. Minor rivers are sort of what people are used to. It runs through the center of the hex like this. And then we have our new navigable river. The minor river flows into this navigable
Boats can go
right
upriver
here,
now.
So we're going to settle right at this
Hell yeah.
transition. Fresh water is still important. It gives a happiness bonus to the settlement. So yeah, we're going to settle right on this. That gives us that happiness bonus. And if we zoom out here, we're able to see that we get all.
Oh, they got a happiness
borders
bonus
around
from
those
the
initial
river.
Tiles.
Okay.
And we're going to start by choosing production. We have no other units. We've just created the settlement and have nothing else. We can see here that our first two choices are a scout or a warrior, and both of these take only one turn. And that allows us to pick what unit we want to start with, whether that's a scout or a warrior. It'll finish immediately, and on turn 2, we'll have that unit ready to use. So I'm going to go ahead and pick a scout here so we can start exploring the map.
Before we go on, I think this is just a great moment to talk about the fact that we are living in Antiquity, and I want to give my other Andrew here a moment to just talk about what it means to be in this age and what the whole encapsulation of that moment in history is.
Yeah, I think for me, when you divide up the gameplay into distinct ages, it allows you to really focus on what's interesting about that point in history, what's interesting about that point in time. And when we look at Antiquity, however you define the time period, we're looking at a point in time when states are not the dominant power or not the dominant influence in the world. You've got states and you have vast areas which are populated. There are people there, but they're not governed and organized in state formations. So Antiquity is a moment where these kinds of the foundations are built. You're building social systems, you're building architecture, you're creating language communities. For instance, Latin and Sanskrit and classical Chinese are these kinds of empire-oriented, centralized languages that are going to get more complicated when we move on into later periods. So having a focus here in the first stage on that
nerd alert.
He's
passionate.
The groundwork, I think lets you kind of play with the dynamics a little bit.
I get it.
Absolutely. Speaking of building groundwork, let's go ahead and advance the turn and we'll get our first tech.
The radiance of the new world came into being bathed in nectar, bathed in love.
So here is Gwendolyn Christie reading out our quotes now. For those of you who've played a lot of Civilization, you know that when you get into when you unlock a new tech or a new Civic, you get a kind of a quote. And we're really happy to have Gwendolyn Christie reading these.
We love Gwendolyn.
Absolutely. But also, what I think we wanted to do with the quotes here is to bring a sense of gravitas back to these quotes. Sometimes they're directly related to whatever you're researching, and sometimes they're more evocative. And also remembering that the story of civilization is not.
Bro, you know who this guy reminds me of suddenly?
Part of the world. It's
Jim
global.
Carrey.
This is from the
This dude's like Jim Carrey if he made a
on-
game.
in the Angkor complex in Cambodia.
100%.
And again, talking about the kind of the new growth, birth, something which kind of goes with agriculture and is evocative about that.
All right, Carl, take us away.
Sounds good. So yeah, we've discovered agriculture. That's our very first technology. You are locked into that at
Locked
the very
in.
first turn. And on turn 2 here, we're able to select a new technology. So we're going to open that up. And our choices are sailing, animal husbandry, or pottery.
This is a great moment to talk about what you're going to get from these things, and the fact that I don't have to make the choice right away. I get a little bit of time to see what's going on in the world, and then I get to choose what I get to do. And why don't you tell us why we might choose something over something else?
Yeah, absolutely. So the techs this time do not unlock tile improvements for us. Instead, it unlocks the yields for those tile improvements. We're going to see a little bit more about how tile improvements work here in just a moment. But what our initial choice here could be informed by the terrain that's around us, the resources that are around us, and what yields we want to try to focus on first. So I see that we have some sheep nearby. I see that we have some cotton nearby. So those are pastures and plantations. So we want to try to find those. On pottery, we have plantations, and on animal husbandry, we have pastures. I see more sheep than cotton, so I'm going to pick animal husbandry here to try to get that.
Incorrect move. Civilization has been
We
extinct.
also have our new choice of production because our scout finished, and we'll come back to the scout here in just a moment. I am going to lock in a warrior as our next unit to build so that we can get that defense, exactly. And let me select our scout.
Before we move them, I think this is a great moment to talk about another one of those changes that can be both subtle but also really important. And there's the various terrain types here. And Carl, why don't you talk about how that?
God, that looks
affects our
really
movement
pretty.
here.
Yeah, absolutely.
This does look
terrain
really
is
nice, though.
different
It's
than it
pretty
has
to
been
look
in the
at.
past. We now have these rough tiles here that we can see that have this really rocky look to them. And we have vegetated tiles down here. Vegetation is actually different by biome. So we have our forest here, but say if you were in tundra, you would have taiga. So the type of vegetation that you have does change. And then we have wet tiles. So here, this is marsh, which appears in grassland. That also changes by biome type. These are now turn ending. In previous games, in Civ 6, we had these cost a certain amount of movement points from the unit. We can see we still have movement points as a stat on the unit, but rather than each of these terrain types costing a certain number of those points, they end the movement entirely.
I think this is a perfect example of a lot of changes you're going to see in here, where we try to take the complexity out, but keeping the interest in.
Absolutely.
And this is actually a really great story was shared with me, where this idea of the turn movement ending was actually came from Sid Meier himself. When he was talking about, Ed and him were talking about how do we want to adjust things. And I noticed though your scout is moving through this. Why is that happening easier?
Yeah, I said it's turn ending, but we actually are able to go straight through this because it's a scout. Scouts are able to ignore those terrain rules, and they're able to move faster and farther through the terrain, which is
That
gonna
guy's
let
traveling
us
around with
explore
3
more of
dogs.
the map. But our warrior that we're going to build, that will have to.
I thought
obey
scouts
some
only had like
rules.
1 dog.
I will point out that the minor river is turn ending even for the scout. You can't just cross rivers easily. You do have to spend a turn there to try to get across that. And of course, on navigable rivers, you will embark your unit. So now we have Grow City. This is another one of those things you're talking about where we've changed it from how it works in the past. No more do we have a worker or builder unit. Now, when it's time for your settlement to grow, you get to do this Grow City action, which
Need
brings
3
us
doggos
into
for all the
a
bears?
top-down
Yeah, that
screen,
makes sense.
And we're able to select what tile we want to grow into, and a tile improvement is automatically placed on the map, and our settlement begins working that land.
Yeah, I think it's just a huge change. Obviously, we'll talk about what the red means a little bit later. There's a lot of import there. But I think being able to just directly control not just what you get, but which direction your city is growing is a huge change for us. And again, keeping that interesting decision clear and at the forefront.
Yeah, which direction we grow is actually a huge part of this. When you select one of these tiles, you'll actually culture bomb all unowned tiles around it. So those are acquired by your territory and your borders will expand. And you have to grow linearly.
Culture bomb.
So we talked about this sheep resource up here. We can also see gypsum here. We talked about the cotton down here. If we want these resources, we have to grow directly to them tile by tile.
Right.
And expand our city out from that city center. So we have to decide here what resource we want to focus on.
Yeah,
We
culture
do have
bomb.
another sheep down here. So I want to try to go down here.
I guess
because
it's like
cotton is
the
gonna
more
give
you
us
build
two
your
food
city
and two
within your
production when we pick
territory,
it
the
up.
more you'll
So
grow
I
your
wanna go for
territory.
this first, and then
It
later
kind of
we'll
makes
go up and
sense,
get
but
that,
culture
the
bomb was a
sheep and the
weird,
gypsum up
weird
top.
term
And
to use.
obviously, we see the yield icons too, which we're going to earn those
Yes.
as soon as we pick it. We get that improvement, and we get those yields immediately.
We do, yes. Although we have to unlock
Culture
the
Bomb by
improvement
Blamco.
tile yield from that tech tree. So picking this will give us a woodcutter, but we have to still unlock our woodcutter yield, which we will do in that tech tree. So here we can see that woodcutter got placed down, our borders expanded, and now this cotton is inside our territory. We own it, but we are not working this yet. We do not have the cotton itself.
Excellent. Let's give that scout some more orders.
Sounds good.
I really love seeing all the variety in the map, even just for the amount of tiles that are shown right here. I know something that our players have called out, which is really cool to see, is sort of those terrain height differences.
Yes, we can see them right here. I'm not able to move up onto this tile even though I'm next to it, because right here, this is a cliff, and this is an inland cliff. There is, like you said, a terrain height difference right here, and I have to obey that as I move around the map. It's not a mountain. This is a mountain right here, but next to it is still this rocky escarpment that I have to circle around.
I think it becomes really interesting for what that means to explore the map, and how my ability to explore changes and grows over time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and when you have the scout with a scout dog and you reach a navigable river, the dogs also embark.
Yeah, they're with you. Don't worry.
They
We do have a
embark.
question actually on the scout dog, which we know is a vital aspect to the scout.
Correct.
Jared from YouTube asks, can we change the scout dogs to cats? Vital info needed here.
There isn't a cat that I can recall right now, but there is going to be some fun surprises coming for what you can do with different dogs and how those are earned and unlocked and chosen based on who you are.
We love the scout dog here too.
Oh, okay. So there's going to be a cosmetic for the dogs, maybe?
The cliffs and the highland areas actually interact.
Maybe there'll be
with
cosmetics for the
main
dogs
floor
when you
that
get to
underlies the map
pick
grid
your
for Civ.
nation a little bit ahead of
That actually
time. A little
feeds into how the
customization.
game generates navigable and minor rivers as well too. So it's just a cool way that interacts with how the world gets built in Civ.
So I did a unique action with our scout here. We have a few new actions with our recon units. So first we have lookout. This allows us to place a watchtower where the scout is, and it increases our sight range by 1. It will sleep the unit, so it'll just stay there on that tile, acting as that lookout, letting us see more of the terrain. This is really great for keeping an eye on enemies or particularly areas of interest. And then we have search. Search does the same thing. It increases your sight range by 1, but this lasts for only 1 turn, and it reveals all discoveries within the range that you are able to see. Discoveries are our new goodie huts, and there's a variety of types of them. We have revealed 2 with this action. Over here we have wreckage, and then here
Wreckage.
we have ruins. There it is. I was looking for it, and it was at the very bottom. It's ruins. So
Oh,
we're going to
ruins.
grab this wreckage first, and then we're going to go over to those ruins and pick that up.
Another great example of a change we're going to see right here.
Yes.
So Andrew, you want to talk a little bit about what we see here?
So this is the discovery system. Again, gives you a little bit of a small story that's attached to these places on the map. In addition, there's other narrative events that may come up based upon certain decisions that you make in the game, certain actions that you make, who you are and who you're playing and how you're playing. So expect a little bit more.
I just love getting them because not only are they awesome things to see on the map and make it fun to move around, but it's like you were talking about, like really enshrining what it means to be an antiquity. These are stories, these are experiences that people, might have had that let me, understand what was going on there. And it's got the gameplay choice here for me as well. So which Carl, I'm sure, will make the best possible choice.
I hope so. So we do have 2 choices here. We found a campfire that some soldiers have abandoned, and we can either take the supplies or demolish the camp and erect a banner in this location. That will give us 2 different yields. If we take the supplies, we will get 50 gold. If we demolish the camp, we will get 50 happiness towards the next celebration. We'll talk a little bit more about what celebrations are and what they do later on. I think I'm going to take the gold. Early gold is very strong, lets you do a lot of different things. So I'm going to take those
Gold in them
supplies.
there hills.
Speaking of gold, we have a lot of questions from chat asking about.
He's right though. Gold
economic
early game
victories,
is super
how
important,
economics
especially in
work
this game.
the game.
I mean,
Speak a little bit to that.
No surprise.
Oh boy, that's
It's a big question.
It's a big question. I think that we can
Hold on.
talk a little bit.
First of all, look at how wonderful that looks. Like you could tell that they're built in hexagons, but they did such a good job of, like, you could see a road that goes all the way from the city to like the cotton plantation, and that just looks really cool. Although, I wonder how they'll do. Like, there's this river here, and then there's like the road just goes over the river. So I wonder if somehow the game will be smart enough to actually like plot out all the rivers and build like a bridge or something there, or just make it look good. I don't know. And that's a minor gripe, but
The
spot is gonna
caged
be a little bit
bird.
later
It should
when
look
we get to
good.
talk more about the
Watches
legacy path
butterflies
and the victories, but
with
rest assured
envy.
that the economic gameplay is definitely an area where we've expanded quite a bit and given you a lot of things, and again, making that gameplay relevant and different for each age.
Absolutely.
And I think we'll show off a little bit
Yep.
of trading too. In
We're
this
going to get
live
to some
stream.
trading. We'll get to some legacy paths about that as well.
You want to talk about this quote?
Yeah, this is just Kobayashi's. It's part of a haiku there. That is just. I believe it's haiku. I'm not sure exactly, but it's the idea of imagining the perspective of a domestic animal looking outside and seeing what else is out there, what other lives are there. It also goes along with the era as well. Again, this is a place where, in many places, it was healthier and more free to be outside of states. And
yo, real quick, chat. Let's say Civ 7 is out today, or rather, what nation are you going to play as first? Or what is your favorite nation to play as in any Civ game? Like, what would be your, if you could play as any civilization in any previous civilization game in Civ 7, which one do you want to play as? Even if it's not in the game, like, who would you want to go as? Like, if they don't have your Civ in it, who do you want in? Like, who's the best? Who's your favorite? What's number one?
Here we are playing the kind of expansion of agriculture and militarism and
Persia?
hierarchy out into the land, kind of forever altering
Rome?
the world. I think
A
one of the things
Raptoria?
also in terms of like the wreckage bits that you found up there, and maybe some other things that you'll discover soon.
Oh, Mongolia and
is
China.
that This idea of those blank spaces on the map are not blank. That we were to imagine that they're also inhabited. They're lived in by people. Yeah.
Other people that are inhabiting the space.
The Netherlands.
All right,
Ojibwe.
so I think for our
Ojibwe would be
next,
cool.
Piece of production here, we're going to go ahead and make a granary. The granary will improve.
That's where
our
Grandma
farms,
lives, remember.
pastures, and plantations. This does put the yield directly
Aztecs,
onto
good
those
one.
tile improvements onto the map itself. The saw pit will improve camps and woodcutters. We do have a woodcutter right now, but we also have a plantation. And the granary, because it's going to improve pastures, is going to help both the plantation and the pasture that we put on those sheep. So I think this is going to be our first building. When we create a building, we create a new urban district. If we are selecting a new tile,
Right.
each district can hold up to 2 buildings. So I could put it into our city center here. We have a palace in the city center, so that's 1 building, and it can hold up to 1 other building.
Let's go ahead and start so we can show the people what that looks like.
Yeah, so if I select this, we can see where I'm able to place this. I can't place it onto the navigable river because that is technically a water tile, and this building does not go on water. If I were to place it into any one of these tiles here, it would create a new urban district. We would then lose access to that land. We can't put any tile improvements there. Those are on rural tiles only. So when we create a new tile improvement, like we did here with the woodcutter
Yep.
and here with the plantation, that creates a rural district that has a tile improvement on it.
I think what's great to note is that we see in the different colors here, not only, so we can, like you said, we can expand with it where we already have, we can grow to a new area. We can even, if we decided down the road that we wanted to urbanize and take that woodcutter out, we could eventually put buildings here. Probably don't want to do that quite so early, but it is important to note that you can take those things over.
Well, and what happens when you take those over is you actually get that population to move someplace else. So you're telling the people who are working that woodcutter, hey, I need you to go do something else. And then they can go and relocate themselves to a new tile, even a new type of tile improvement. So I could say, go make a farm, go make a pasture.
It's a great way to see how, things are built, in sequence and layer, and as you grow and as your needs change, you can change.
Yes.
And actually, Sucratact from Twitch asks, do you lose the tile yields for building an urban district?
You lose the natural tile yields. So natural tile yields do not continue to remain on a tile with an urban district. They go away completely. If I were to build on top of this woodcutter, we can see on this tile tooltip here, we have 1 food and 1 production. And it's notable that that production comes from having discovered animal husbandry. That's the woodcutter yield. So we unlocked that, and now this is giving us that production. That would go away. We would never have access to that again. Instead, we would have access to the building yields that we're adding here, which with this granary is 2 food. I am going to put this up here. And the reason that I'm selecting this particular tile
is to expand.
Because buildings and new urban districts function similarly to new rural districts in that they culture bomb surrounding tiles.
Yep.
And when you add a new rural district, a new tile improvement, you are able to extend it off of any tile that the city already is working. Not just owns, but is working. So that's the urban and the rural districts.
Holy
So if I
crap,
build
you're going to have
this
to get a
here,
new
once it
new
completes,
degree and go
it
back
will
to
then
university to
grow
play this game.
directly onto the sheep tile and then directly onto the gypsum tile. And that will allow us to grab those resources faster.
Do it.
And just for anybody who's not familiar from Civ 6, the concept of culture bombing is where you expand your borders and it grabs adjacent tiles as well too.
Thank you, Pete.
That's all right. That's, we're all used to calling it that. And
There's
I know-
so many terms and changes, it's hard to keep track of what we have to explain. Oh, this is great. So we met somebody on the map here.
Oh, a friend.
Can you pull out a little bit so we can see what we see? So this is a scout, but this isn't just a barbarian. This isn't just another Civ, we've added this increased, possibility space to what you find. Like Andrew mentioned with the discoveries, there's a story there. It's a lived-in place. These are people who live in this world, and these ones happen to be hostile. We got that red ring around them where we got to watch out for them.
Hostile
But we don't
city-state
necessarily only
scout?
have to fight them. These aren't just like in Civ 6 we had barbarians, and the only way to deal with them was combat. We could fight them, or we could have some other involvement. And I think that Carl's going to try and find where they're from on the map, and then we'll see what some of those additional interactions look like.
And hopefully they won't attack us.
Oh, yeah. Well, you got the warriors now.
We do have the warriors, but you know what? I want to keep exploring with the warriors. So we've got our scout moving to the north. I'm going to send our warrior to the south, and then
Good move.
we might be able to find some more things down here. We want to try to grab as many of those discoveries as we can. That'll give us early yield, and that's always a good thing.
always.
Speaking of discoveries, I do have a question from Tom's from YouTube. He asks, will Eureka's be in the game?
That is a great question. We do not have Eurekas in the game or inspirations. Those function a little bit differently than they have in the past. We still have some of those goals, but we don't have them give the boost of science or culture that they have from Civ 6.
I think you'll see that some of the other systems, like with the discovery system and the stories that pop up, it's a different way to
A pack
extract
horse
some of that
scout, yeah.
gameplay edge.
What's up, CF? Welcome
Right,
back,
a
dude.
little more like of a narrative kind of approach with some of these discoveries, so to speak, that players will recognize, but it's taken on a new form.
So here we have our first Civic.
What's better, this
Like
game
we
or
are locked
chess?
into our
Depends on what you're in the
first
mood
tech
for.
At the very start of the game with agriculture, our first Civic is also locked in with chiefdom. It just takes a little bit longer to unlock. Civics unlock social policies, which are a card-based system that our veteran players will be familiar with. Here we get 2 social policies. We have charismatic leader, which will give us culture, and we have tool making, which will give us production and science. I'm not going to go straight into change policies yet. I'm going to back us out here, and we're going to go to a different screen first. We're going to select what government we want. So if I select what government to choose from, we get these 3 options: classical republic, despotism, and oligarchy.
Yeah, this is a great chance to talk about another one of those changes where we're still making a government choice, but it's decoupled from some of the things it was tied to in the past. You see here we're talking about a celebration, which is something we sort of hinted at a little bit earlier. And this is going to be a significant change. The happiness yield, in addition to a few other things, we'll keep talking about that one, coming back to it. But here, as your excess happiness is going to certainly build your civilization to having a celebration when you reach a threshold. And based on what government you have, you're going to get to choose how do you what happens in your city. How do your people celebrate? In a classical republic, are you getting the culture?
We're going to have a Totino's party pizza, and we're going to
so choosing this
race
is
go-karts. That's
really
how our
about
people
choosing
celebrate.
What you want available to you later as you have those moments.
I think we're going with classical republic here.
Yeah. Rome, a classical republic?
Indeed.
Shocking. So we got a question from Georgia Antipin on YouTube, and Andrew Johnson, Dr. Johnson, this is one for you. Is cultural progression in Civ 7 based on real-life civilization transformations?
Cultural progression meaning
Moving through the culture tree.
In a sense, it sort of is taking. I mean, to get any kind of causality when we're talking about, the development we're talking about changes in society. We see more change and alteration, and not really a kind of evolution. Whereas a civics tree and a tech tree and something like Civ has kind of an evolutionary model where things get kind of increasingly something or other. But I think here, instead, we're thinking about the points in that age. If we look at the age as a whole, what are the inflection points within a particular society or various societies in there? And especially for civics, we're talking about the development of statecraft, of forms of government, as well as other forms of sort of artistic expression, social life.
Chat's liking this guy.
Military discipline.
Chat
on
likes
one
this
hand,
guy.
The idea of a professional army. We see this developing some places, Assyria in a big way, versus mysticism, which is a little bit more of a general term for organized religion, or the beginnings of organized religion. But also, what else we got there, Carl?
So we have some unique civics. These are unique to Rome. Once you complete chiefdom, you do unlock a Civ unique civics tree. This has additional abilities for your Civ that allow you to continue to
He's
power
passionate,
up your
yeah.
civilization's
He is.
ability as you continue to progress through the age. This is also where you get your unique infrastructure. Here we see Temple of Jupiter and the Basilica, both of which are unique buildings for Rome. We get a lot of stuff from this tree. We are going to pick some of these later, but the first thing that I want to do is pick Discipline, because Discipline will give us our Army Commander. Army Commanders are a brand new unit to Civ 7. We are going to talk more about them here in a moment once we have one to show off, but this will give us our Legatus. And the Legatus is a unique commander for Rome, one of our 2 unique units, and it does some really cool things. So the earlier we get it, the better. And I'm going to lock in Discipline as our civic choice.
I
Locked
do
in.
want to just say, I think just to go back to that question you had, I think it is really great to say that because of these 2 trees, it gives us 2 different ways to look at the history, like about these people and about the world. And I think that when we're looking at that sort of shared civic history for the age, like you said, we see the things that were more common or more generalized, and then we see the things that are very Roman. And those are things where the narrative team and the design team work together to find stuff that has such an identity that you feel more Rome when you're picking those things. You get to see what that was at that height in history.
Yeah, and I mean, for Rome-specific questions, Carl has a degree in classics.
Classical culture.
Classical culture.
Yep.
So I'll defer to Carl on
Thank you.
Latin things.
Yeah, it was great to be able to put that to use to make Rome, to make all of the different antiquity civilizations that we have, and it was a lot of fun.
Carl has more depth than just being the barbarian. He's
Thank
got some
you.
historical
I
depth
appreciate
to
you
him.
saying that.
Like everything around here, there's layers.
There are layers.
Exactly.
We do have a new narrative choice available, so I'm going to go ahead and click that, and we'll see what we have here. So this is a Roman unique story. So the Senate is in session. The voices are raised in conflict. A lone senator speaks out against imperial fiat, while Augustus's supporters seek to drown him out. So we have a few different choices here. The first 2 of these will give us a quest. This is kind of like what I was talking about earlier with the question about Eurekas and inspirations. So we do still have some of these kinds of goals that can appear. We can either choose to build 3 monuments, which will give us culture, or we can choose to have a commander that gets 3 promotions, and that will give us plus 15% production towards training infantry units. Or we can choose to not have a quest and then one of those goals and just back out of this and get 33 gold.
And something like this too allows you to kind of role play a little bit too. In that build 3 monuments, what does that mean? That means have
Lots of
multiple
culture.
cities. Yeah, well, also spread out, have multiple cities.
Yes.
So this can also be thought of as a choice between having a decentered, more expansive society versus doubling down on the army, which is something that Romans generally did not do. Is that right, Carl?
I think that it depends on what period of Rome you are looking at.
So you're Augustus.
So Augustus is actually really interesting. We do have decoupled civs and leaders this time. You can have any leader lead any civilization.
Right.
And Augustus himself, we do not have set up to be a militaristic leader.
Right.
Augustus is set up to be an expansionist leader, and he's all about having lots of towns to support a very strong capital. And that's because Augustus founded the Pax Romana, which is a period of peace around the Mediterranean that lasted around 200 years, and it began with his reign. Not that he didn't do any conquering, but he had this big expansionist period where he had lots of provinces, founded lots of new settlements, and that's the part of Augustus that I wanted to focus on. Whereas with Rome, Rome is a conqueror. Rome is a military civ. They have some really strong military units. They have this unique army commander. And so when you pair those 2 things together, you get sort of this really interesting examination of what Rome was over the course of its entire history.
So in a way, this story allows you to kind of pick, okay, what kind of Rome are we focusing on? Are we focusing on Republic? Are we focusing on Empire? Or do we just not care and want money? And that's the third.
Money.
Exactly.
And one of our
Take the money, Carl.
players asked a question. Faculties intact from Twitch. Are these choices because of playing Augustus, or are these choices because of playing Rome?
So you're probably better able to answer that than I am.
this is going to be
Thi-
playing.
This whole
Augustus.
this is because you're Augustus.
Yeah.
This story is because you're Augustus.
Right.
So it's not that the choices are so much. It's that this whole story is Augustus's story.
Right.
How do you want to lead into that? And versus if you had even if you were still Rome, but if you had picked a different leader, you would have that leader's story coming up.
That's
You might,
weird.
and sometimes there's combinations. Sometimes
That's
it
weird.
triggers if you are Augustus and Rome. Sometimes the triggers might be more.
I wonder how the hell that's going to work.
hidden or complex than just simply you are this or you are that.
That's what makes them available.
But at least you have
not
the
that it's
option to
always
do it
good.
if you want. If you don't want to do it, you just don't do it. That's it.
I'm dying here.
Yeah, sorry. So because we are going for discipline as our first civic, and we're trying to get that legatus as early as possible, I want to try to go ahead and give it promotions, and I think we're going to go with only the strength and loyalty of the army matters. It's right up
Carl
my
Marion.
alley.
You
Yeah.
can give Carl a degree in classics, but the warlord will win in the end.
You can take Carl to university. But.
Yeah. All right.
All
All
right.
right, so we have command
Yeah, let's get
units.
some
Let's
units.
let's keep moving this this scout.
Show us
We're
more
trying to
map.
get these ruins over here, so
Get some
we're gonna move
exploration.
along. And this is another cliff. We can't go straight down, so I'm going to use this opportunity to try to search again. We're going to reveal some more land around us and see what other discoveries might be.
Oh, hell, I didn't know you could do that.
So no new discoveries besides
Oh.
what we had already revealed, but
But
we
do see a path.
Hell, I
we also
didn't
see
do
a
that
path
in my
around if
playthrough.
we wanna
we
get
do see
there.
a path.
That's
around
cool.
now
There's
that we
there's a
didn't have to
button to
move all the way
basically
over
like
there to
give a
see.
huge
We're able to see that there are no
explosion in all
other,
directions without having to, like,
independent units, hostile units nearby,
moving so
no
often
other
to reveal
civilization
that. That's
units
great.
nearby. We have a much better grasp of the lay of the land without having to go move to every single.
like a
location.
sonar ping mode for an ability.
You
That's
really
cool.
wanted to
Yeah.
start using that ability.
Yeah, a search bomb. Everything in this game is bomb. Your culture
Again,
bombing,
you're
search
stopping on
bombing.
that river.
Yep, the river
You know,
ends that.
when you go to
turn.
build a new city with the settlers they mentioned to build a town, town bombing.
Alright.
We met someone.
Ooh.
हम अशोक ही संसार के मध्य बिंदु के एगो महान राजा और एगो महान पापी।
All right. Right here, we'll sit for just a second and start talking a little bit about our new diplomacy system because there's so much going on here.
Oh, boy.
Some of it you may have picked up, some of it you've seen, but when we meet a leader now, it's not just hi. This is a hi.
It's not high.
And a little bit about how I want to approach them. And on top of that, we get to talk about our influence here. So you've always got the ability to have a neutral greeting. That's just sort of the traditional, hey, we've met. But now you can sort of, how do I want to approach this leader? Based on who they are, based on how I'm planning to play this game.
Yeah, it's
I
cool that you can get
decide
started with the
very
diplomacy
beginning
from the moment
what
you meet
foot do
them,
we
which is
wanna
cool.
Start off on. And then I'm going to have to use my influence, which is that new yield for our diplomatic system. That's going to it's an opportunity cost. I can choose to go this way or that way, but down the road, I'm not going to have that diplo for other things. So I don't know if we've already got a plane here, Carl, but you're.
I feel like Carl's getting.
He's got a plan.
as a
Actually,
character.
before we jump in, who did we meet?
So this is Ashoka, one of the probably one of the more famous emperors in Indian history and of the Maurya dynasty, and we will see the Maurya is also a playable civ, and Ashoka here is playing Maurya. His lines here, a lot of these will reflect either actual things that the individual said. In this case, Ashoka's story, the part of the character that we're leading on is this moment in Ashoka's life where he is engaged in a military campaign, achieves dramatic success and slaughters his enemies, and then suddenly realizes that he may have done something wrong. He converts to Buddhism and begins to spread Buddhism all across northern India, and is attributed. His model of kingship is also attributed to parts of Southeast Asia as well, though the historicity of that is in question.
And we're also going to show up more of Ashoka
Yeah.
in this stream as well, which is exciting.
Oh, yeah,
I just
cool.
want to take a moment to call out the awesome soundtrack of the game.
The music
I
is
do have
pretty
a
good.
question.
The music is
Anyway.
pretty good. I mean,
You've
Civ's
got a lot
music
to
has
say
always
about
been
the
pretty
soundtrack,
good,
which is
so
awesome.
no surprise.
Magistat from YouTube asks, will each civilization have their own soundtrack, and do they mix together with others as the ages progress?
Ooh.
So maybe we can answer that and then just speak to the soundtrack as a whole as well.
Yeah, every civ has its own theme. right? And so what we're hearing right now, as we meet Moria, we're hearing Moria's theme. And I get excited about this one just because it touches upon, other lives that I have. But it's a
Wait, what?
Indian style music. It has, though, within it, it's in Bali is the language here.
I like this
It's a
music
Buddhist
based on the
chant,
other lives. What?
Buddham Saranam Katsani, I take refuge in the Buddha, I take refuge in the Dhamma, I take refuge in the Sangha.
Oh, maybe
So
he's
it
Buddhist.
fits
Maybe that's
so
what he
well
means.
A feeling
I don't know if I'd call that
of,
another life.
South Asian Buddhism. That feels very Ashoka to me. And I think the music for Civ 6 was fantastic, and I think if you liked that, you will like this as well.
Dude, this music is good.
Andrew actually posted a really wonderful message in our internal message board the other day, thanking the music team for their work on this and sharing that story with everybody. So that's part of the fun of working on a Civ game is, seeing people's connection to it kind of get excited in the course of this. All right, Carl, go ahead and make your choice, and we'll move on from here.
I do before you're going to point something out too, but I also want to call out to our art team just the experience of being able to see the two leaders together, and as we go through, you'll get to see the reaction as Carl decides how he feels about Ashoka, or at least how his Augustus feels about Ashoka.
Yep,
We
the
get to
stream's
see
at
that
full
play out
volume.
from both of them.
Nothing I could do to turn up the stream
Sure,
anymore.
yeah. I am actually going to pick friendly greeting here, and that's because I want us to show off some of the
But I
diplomacy
could try
options that we
this.
have in the game. And by picking friendly, we might be able to foster that relationship some, show what we can do with influence. We'll have other opportunities to attack people. I'm not worried about that. So we're going to start
Maybe
with
that'll
friendly
help.
greeting
We'll see.
and see what that does.
Spending a little bit of our influence yield to do so.
He's breaking character, Carl.
Yeah.
Carl is.
I'm worried about
Well,
it.
it's Augustus, not Carl. That's doing it.
Okay.
So now we're taken into our diplomacy screen with Ashoka. So we can do open borders, we can do our normal denounce military presence when they're near our borders. We have a series of endeavors here, and these are unlocked by the leader that we're playing and the attributes that they have. We'll talk more about attributes later on. Right now we can do cultural exchange, and this will grant additional culture
music
to
is
each
badass.
leader. I'm the one proposing it, so if he just accepts it, I'll get 4 culture per turn, and Ashoka will get 2 culture per turn. He can also choose to support it, which forces him to spend some influence and say, hey, this is something we want to do together. We're going to do this in the spirit of cooperation. That increases the yield for both leaders, so we'll both get 6 culture per turn, and that'll last for 10 turns. He can also choose to reject this, and he has to spend influence in order to do that. Accepting is the only option that is free. If he rejects it, it hurts our relationship, and I don't get anything. Neither one of us gets anything.
And I think this is a great moment to highlight that our diplomatic system, in addition to having the new yield, is much more about these actions, these endeavors and sanctions, and pushing my relationship with the leaders up or down, or capitalizing on the relationship that I've already built. It's not just a deal table. We don't have a deal table where you're just passing resources or money back and forth. This is much more about the dynamic interactions between the two of them.
And this list of actions is going to expand as
It
you
will.
research more. Right.
It will expand.
If you zoom out in the
and
game,
we
do you have a
some
world
other things
view?
down at the bottom that we're gonna take a look at later
There's probably
on.
a
We can
maximum
start with cultural
zoom.
exchange and see whether he accepts it, supports
remember.
it, or rejects it. So he's supported. He spent influence in order to support it, and we both are now getting 6 culture per turn, which will update on our top bar yields here in a moment.
And we got a quick question from chat. H Vector asks, does the influence get refunded if the other side refuses the offer?
I believe so. I do not specifically recall off the top of my head.
I believe that's
I
correct.
believe that's correct. I believe you get your influence back. You do not, however, get their influence. So when they spend influence to reject it, you don't get that, but you do get yours, what you spent refunded. So the other thing that that doing a friendly relationship greeting with Ashoka did is it revealed his capital to us. So if we pan up here on the map, we are able to see that settlement location now, and we have an idea of where they are on the map. And that revealed both capitals. So now he has this same visibility on us and knows where we are on the map.
Excellent.
We'll be able to show more of the different architecture of another civilization when we load into a.
Kind of funny that he built his city like literally in a line. It's just luck of the draw,
Carl,
but
what do you think? Do you
still
think
kind
we
of funny.
should, we should load into that later save, see the end of Antiquity?
Yeah, I
here?
think it's a decent time to do that.
Yeah.
It's just, I saw you put down the farm there. I think the animations in this are so cool. There's always something going on,
Yeah.
Your founder's goat is jumping around, and
Yeah.
the chickens are flapping, and
we'll get to see some of those military unit animations
Yeah.
when we get
I know
into
we're
the
really
save.
excited to see exactly how commanders manage to pack armies in. Contrary to some popular belief, it is not, in fact, ingesting them and carrying them around.
Correct. And then when they unpack, they are not physically spitting the units out onto the map. It's more of a deployment.
Yeah, it's more of a military strategy, not a...
Yeah.
While we're
That's like
loading
marching.
into that next save,
Units
I know
marching
something that our players
versus
have been dying
units
to
being
hear more
deployed.
about is just what happens on the other side of the map, right? When you start in Antiquity, what's kind of going on during that fog of war? We're going to be speaking to it more in exploration, but is there anything we can kind of speak to?
Yeah,
now?
that other side of the map is real, and it's there, and those civilizations are growing and developing on their very own. You won't interact with them directly, but because it is the same game world, they're building what you're going to end up dealing with later, or interacting with, I should say. And they may even beat you out for a wonder, I think has happened to
Oh, this is
Carl
the same
earlier.
map, right?
Yeah,
I'm pretty
It
sure.
can happen, yeah.
All right, so here we are at Rome later on in Antiquity. What
Yeah.
are we looking at here?
All right, so yeah, we are much later on. We have our city built up a lot more. We have a bunch of other settlements.
Seeing
around
Rome
too.
in Civ
Here
7
we
is
have,
really making me want to
Rome
see a lot more
capital.
from
We
Anno
have
11.7.
walls around a couple of
Like,
our
we haven't really
districts.
seen too
We
much from the new Anno game.
Build walls district by district now, urban tile by urban tile. And that adds defenses to that tile. So when you're trying to capture a settlement, you have to occupy each of those defended districts, the districts with walls. We also have our unique quarter. So when you have a civilization with unique buildings, a civ with unique buildings gets 2 buildings. You can place those in different tiles if you want to. Each building does have different adjacency yields. Those are on
Those
the
buildings look
themselves
really
now.
nice.
And so you might want to
Including the
buildings
walls around
separate
the
to
city.
try to maximize the yields
Not
that you're
bad.
getting if you have a
Not bad.
particularly good spot for one of them. But if you put them together into the same tile, it creates this unique quarter, and that has an additional effect that is different for every single civ, is different for every single quarter, and it powers you up in some really interesting and cool way. For Rome, it gives you +1 culture and gold for every single tradition, which is a special type of social policy that you have equipped in your government. So we have built our forum here. It also adds additional art to the tile. So we have this really cool center plaza section that represents the Roman Forum that gets added to this when we put them both into the same tile here. We have a few other things going on. If we pan around our map, we have some towns. So we talked about towns earlier. When a settler creates a new settlement, it starts as a town. Towns collect all of the yields around them, and any production that they collect gets converted into gold. It does not stay as production. Towns don't
This guy
produce
loves his
buildings for
gold.
themselves. Instead, they can purchase buildings, but they can only purchase certain ones.
Wow, he said plus
Not
50 per
every
turn.
single
That's a lot of
building
gold.
that a city can build is available in a town. So
And
we're gonna.
This is just a great example of finding that fun and the interest. Is like sometimes you want to get bigger, but you don't necessarily want to manage all those production queues. If you want them, you can convert a town into a city by paying for it.
Yeah.
But there's a few other things you can do. You can actually specialize a town.
Yep.
And with that, you're going to be able to choose a more specific use. For
That
the
part
yields.
was
Carl's got
cool.
one right here.
You can make
so
like
that
a,
was actually
a
city.
fishing town or a farming
answered
city.
The very
That's
first thing,
cool.
I was like, "This is a town." It was not a town.
That's all right.
That was a city.
Yeah.
This is a town. So when we open this up, we can see that the list of buildings that we have here is different than what was available in that city. So we have a couple different buildings on this. We can still purchase our units with the gold that we have available, and then this is the focus that we're talking about. So right now we're dedicated to growing this town. And once the town has reached 7 population, we are able to select a different focus for it. So when we open this up, we can see there's a list of these that we can choose from. Each one has a different effect. and allows us to commit this town
Dude, this
for
song,
the rest of the age to doing
the
one
frickin'
of these
music in the
things.
background
So
is
when we
absolutely
select
outstanding.
farming
At
town,
least
for
this
example,
song.
we'll increase
I can't
all
wait to hear
food
the other
that this town
music.
is producing, and that food
This
then
is
goes,
so, it's like a
back
subtle
to
banger.
connected
It's
cities.
so
We can see that
good.
right up here. They send 100% of that food to all of your other cities, allowing your cities to grow and get really tall.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
Tall cities are really interesting, and we'll take a look at a tall city here in just a moment and see what that means. So let's go ahead and lock that in. This does
Locked
make
in.
this locked for the rest of the age. We can switch it back to growing itself if we want to. It will continue to grow on its own if we want to have it do that. But I think switching this.
And Carl, are those kind of the 160, the hundreds kind of numbers that we saw there, those are turns or gold? Chat wants clarification.
Yes, so that is gold. That is one of those in-progress build things that you mentioned earlier. So those are gold numbers. It's just using the wrong icon.
Got it. And I do have another question from Twitch. IRScath asks, at the top left, there seems to be a city icon with it showing 1/3 after we initially founded our capital city. Are we limited in city count?
That is a
Yes.
great question.
You are.
I'm about to talk about
But
it.
no.
Amazing.
We'll hold
Yes,
on to that
but no.
for just a few more moments. We'll come down here and we're going to take a look at this unique Legatus that we talked about right away early on. We discovered discipline. Obviously, we've got our Legatus. And we can see that this has a 4 on it. That's the level of this commander, which is the number of promotions that it is available to choose. You can bank promotions if you want. You don't have to choose right away. The level still increases, but we have assigned all of these promotions. We can go ahead and jump in and take a look at what those are. So when we open our commander promotions, we can see that there's a series of promotion trees for us to pick from. This allows us to specialize our commanders in a variety of different ways. Bastion is all about defense. Assault is all about offense. Logistics is all about different things that your commander is able to do around the map. Maneuver is about moving your commander and your troops. And then leadership is focusing on the
They gotta get
commander
into some
itself
battles,
and
though,
making
before
it
they
the
can
best
spend
commander
points
it can
here.
possibly be.
So not necessarily just about leading troops. Some of these are about
Other things, yeah. So if we take a look at this leadership tree, the very first one that we've unlocked here is Zeal. So when we station this this commander in a district, which is place it there, just have it occupy that district, it'll increase all the yields in that settlement by 5%. So this is more of a peacetime thing. This guy is not necessarily out in the field doing a lot of combat. I have him back at home. This pairs very well with Bastion, which is why we've put these two together here. And so it's like if I get attacked, I'm defending really well, and in the
Oh,
meantime,
that's cool.
I'm boosting my settlement.
I think one thing
So you
that's
can
really
basically
important for people
boost
who
your
haven't,
pre-war
may have missed it
economy and
previously, is that
then
your commanders
also
are
be
your
on the
only units
defensive.
that gain experience points. So you're not gaining it with every combat or
Yes.
every unit on the map. It's now centralized, so you have a less to manage, but at the same time, these bonuses, obviously depending on which one it is, but most of them for the combat affect not the commander, but all the troops around it.
Yes.
They have an area of effect, so you don't have to worry about leveling up one unit and losing it and that one's gone. You can bring reinforcements in and they will immediately be brought up to speed because they're part of that army that this commander is providing all of their bonuses to.
And I saw in chat people asking if you can lose a commander. You
Oh, yeah.
can, which is devastating.
You can. You
You
can
can,
get it
yeah.
back. They will respawn. But there's a certain amount of time that passes before the commander will respawn. And there is a promotion that decreases the amount of time it takes for your commander to respawn. If you want to make your commander really good, that's the way to go for it. But yeah, you want to target those commanders first when you see them out in the field, particularly if that level number is really high, because it means that they are buffing all of those units around them, and they're a big threat. So if you off those commanders, if you defeat them, it weakens everything else around them. So here we can see a really good example of that. The first Bastion promotion, Steadfast, gives a +2 combat strength to all the land units around the commander when they are defending. So this does not help my attack. This helps when I get attacked. The command radius at start is 1 tile. So we can actually see this when we select the commander. The movement here is a blue outline. The command radius is this white outline. So all units that are in these 6 hexes around the commander and the center hex itself are all within the command radius. There are ways to increase the command radius, so it can go up to 2, and that is very strong. The experience you were talking about collecting, that is also within command radius.
Yeah.
So
any combat that happens with those units is going to add XP back to back
to
to that
that
commander.
commander.
And I think there's also a great moment while we're looking at this. We can see that UI. We can see, not only do we see the commander, we can see the specific units that are packed in there,
Yep.
their health. And on top of that, there's a bunch of new abilities that we see in there.
Ton of new abilities.
Yeah, we may not get to talk about all of them, but there's a lot of things where your commander can issue group-wide things or things that they can do while they're packed. That's how they can sort of, we often say vacuum, like suck in all the units around them, or they can pack them individually.
Or eat them.
No, not eat them.
Oh, right, right.
They
We said
join
it's
the
not an
eating
edible
them.
thing.
So there's a lot you can do, but this is the Legatus, so they have a couple extra special things even on top of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Legatus, like we said, is unique to Rome, and the thing that makes it unique is as it gains levels, gains promotions, it is able to create settlements, and that's sort of representing the fact
Really?
that
Oh, that's what
Rome,
lets them build
particularly
more.
Augustus, at that period of the Roman Empire during the Pax Romana for those 200 years, they settled their veteran soldiers into provincial territories and created new towns, new locations, and they settled those veteran soldiers out. That was the promise for their service, was farmable land later on. And that is represented here with the Legatus. So as they gain experience, as their troops have done lots of fighting, they can then settle those troops and create a new town. So here we can see we have a settlement charge on this unit.
Yeah.
You get 1 settlement charge for every 3 promotions the Legatus has. This one
So
has
there is
4
a city
promotions.
limit, but it's
So we
not
can
it's
create
not a
a
hard
settlement
city
here.
limit. There is a way to
do.
kind of sneak
We get to
past and get a
select
few
which
more
tile that goes
settlements
on.
than
We're
what
gonna
you're
put it right
supposed to
here on the
have,
minor
or what would
river,
be
because,
average.
Again, fresh water is very important.
Makes
You
sense.
do get fresh water if you're adjacent to a navigable river, because you can't settle on that river tile. But for a minor river, it has to be on the minor river hex, not adjacent to that. So we're going to put it right here. We get that. And something has popped up here. A milestone has completed. So let's talk about what milestones are.
Yeah, this is one of those really big changes we talked about earlier about the ages system, that now we want to recognize your progress in each age, as well as building towards that grand victory at the end of the final age of that whole campaign.
Oh, does the
And in
command
this
radius
one, we're
expand with
moving
the
down
ages for the
Pax
commander?
Imperatoria,
That's probably based on
legacy
their
path.
experience.
And,
So
you know, if we hop over to that one,
it would
you see
probably
here on
improve
the
with
screen, we've got
time,
the path.
as in them
there are 4 paths
experiencing
in every
battles,
age.
but not
They're
by
gonna fall
age.
into these common families. We can hop over and take a look at the economic one in a minute. But the one we just unlocked here is, bam, there you go. So now that we're gonna get some bonuses that'll help us develop further.
Yeah, so this track, the legacy path here is to have 12 towns or cities total in your empire, but conquered settlements counts as 2. So you can achieve this entirely peacefully. Rome is actually really, really good at that. They can have all of these different settlements out there and just create it peacefully, but conquering does count double if you take somebody else's. And then you gain progress as you advance in steps down this track. So we've hit this very first step. This does increase age progression. We'll talk about that meter once we return to the main map here in a second. And then we get some initial rewards. So we get a militaristic legacy point. We get a 2 options in the next age, legacy options, and we'll show what those are when we do our age transition. So we get an option to get a military attribute point or an expansionist attribute point. When we continue to progress, we get additional benefits. So even more legacy options will unlock, more points to spend on those. And then if we complete this path, we get a golden age. And that golden age unlocks a golden legacy option in
I
the
didn't
next
even know
age.
this.
Only one of those can be selected per age if you were to complete multiple golden ages. And again, we'll take a look at that later.
That is
you
a
get
really
these-
cool
all of
thing
the
to do
rewards
within the
from what
age.
you've done
That's
previously
awesome.
as
Yeah,
well.
so they're helping you in the next age, and they're also going to help you in the final age with claiming that ultimate victory. Because the more you've invested in any particular legacy over the course of your campaign, you're going to have various bonuses to do things faster towards your victory in that final
Right.
age. So it's an opportunity.
So you can,
to
like,
progress on many different
supercharge
paths.
the
You can pivot your
one of the
legacy
4
from, the
or
one that
multiple,
you want to prioritize
probably.
in one age or the next.
Things in
But
each age.
You
That's
may
cool
also
as
choose
hell.
to double down. So it's a really a nice strategic option for where am I going, and they're all geared towards that age.
Right. This stuff is going to be different in subsequent ages. These legacy paths are specific to Antiquity.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
those
when
ones,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Like the Great Library.
Codices in my empire is incredibly important In the Antiquity era,
I saw this when I was
that's
playing to
when
build the
these-
Great
you know,
Library,
like
but
you
I didn't
talked about
realize it
earlier,
was
there a lot
like
of stuff being explored, written,
a
they were
legacy
enshrining it.
path.
In different ages, we're going to care about different things. In this one, built silk roads, very evocative of Antiquity, of people bringing those resources across, getting those resources assigned to my settlements.
Silk roads, those
And
sound like
this is,
horrible
you know,
roads.
gonna
That's
be a
not going to.
completely
Rome
different
is
one.
supposed to
Hopefully
build the best
I don't know if
roads.
we'll talk about it
Silk
yet or not,
roads.
maybe in the
Those
future, but one of my
are
favorites
going to
is
go
their
bad quick,
exploration,
brother. You got to put down
economic
gravel,
victories. A very different gameplay.
So
bricks.
we have a lot of questions coming in about religion and how
These guys
religion
don't know
plays
how to
in
make
this.
a
And I know we're
game.
gonna talk
Silk
about it a little
roads.
bit
You can't
later
make a
on the
road
stream,
out of silk.
but
Yeah.
These guys are
touch it up.
idiots. I thought this guy was a
In
doctor.
Antiquity, we do have Pantheons, and we are going to show
Unplayable.
those off later on. And religion itself does make an appearance in the game.
soft on the
It's
feet, though,
featured
that's
more
true.
heavily in the exploration age. And as we said, that the legacy paths do change by age, so what these look like in exploration are different. But we'll
This is
dive
great, though.
into
Seeing
the
all this is really
details
cool.
on all of that, I think, at a later time.
And I think one of the reasons why religion plays more of a role in exploration is because this kind of fits more the historical model. Whereas, you know, in what we normally think of as the Antiquity era, many of the world religions that we know now were founded. Some were still yet to come about. They became such a large and grand political force. When you think about, you know, the Catholic Church in the Middle Ages, or the expansion of the caliphates in the Middle Ages as well.
Yeah, what's next? Is Silk Song?
This is a story for a later time.
All right, so I promised that we would get back to this settlement limit question, and we're going to do that right now because we saw in the legacy path that in order to win the
Yep, so now
military
he's 6 out of
legacy,
5.
You have to have 12 settlements.
Damn.
Captured settlements count double, but if you were to do this completely naturally without capturing anything, as I said, you can do. It is possible even though you have
12
settlement limit.
settlements.
We can see up here, we are now, after settling this town, we are now at 6 out of 5 settlement limit. We have exceeded our settlement limit. This is a soft limit. You can have any number of cities that you want to, as much space as there is on the map. You can only settle, you have to have 3 tiles in between each settlement, so you can't be right up, 2 tiles away from something else, just like in Civ 6. You have to maintain that distance. But as much space as there is, you can have as many settlements as you want. For every single settlement that you exceed your limit, as we can see right here, you do get a -5 happiness penalty in all your settlements. Settlement happiness is tracked individually. So we can see here that this settlement is now unhappy. But if we look at some of our others, they might still be happy. And we can see that our total happiness yield is still positive. So we have some wiggle room. This settlement might not be doing so great, but our empire is still doing fine. And as we said before, this happiness, total happiness number is being deposited towards our celebrations. We want to try to maintain that. That'll get us, that's how we get more social policy slots, is every celebration you unlock, you get a new social policy slot.
In addition to choosing the bonus of how you want to
addition to the
celebrate.
celebration.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
So there's both the temporary bonus of the celebration itself, and then the unlocking that you can use that policy however you want to,
Right.
as you go throughout the rest of the age.
Yes. So what happens here is the settlement limit we can exceed. We are penalizing ourselves, but we are adding all of the tiles that this settlement is going to gain, all of the yields that's going, still goes into our empire. That still matters. It's still helpful. What we do have is a difference between wide versus tall gameplay as a result, and that means something different in Civ 7. You can have a wide empire within your settlement limit. You can have a wide empire that greatly exceeds your settlement limit. You can have a tall empire that exceeds your settlement limit. Tall really here is about having those towns that are feeding a couple of cities, and that comes down to specialists, which we're going to see here.
Well, let's do that.
Are they going to talk about endgame?
Start taking
Well,
over a city,
We
too.
will take over.
They're
city
only
here.
talking about
So,
the Antiquity
we have
age
this,
today.
growth event, and we have unlocked.
So we have yet
as
to see the
specialists.
exploration
Earlier,
age or
our
the
urban tiles were
modern
red, and we
age.
said we're going to come back to that. Now they are blue because we can place a
But
specialist.
there will be an
When we
end
place a
game for the
specialist
Age of
down,
Antiquity,
it adds
and
a
they've kind of
base
mentioned a few of the
2
things
science and 2
that make that
culture
important
with
here.
A penalty of 2 food and 2 happiness.
So this is a great way to, if I don't want to go wide, or if I've gone as wide as I can enhance my yield either in a different direction or whatever, without necessarily needing more territory.
Yes.
So.
And the more towns you have, the more food is being funneled into your cities, the taller that they will become.
Excellent. Well, let's get out to that combat here.
So we'll go ahead and plop this down on the one that has the most yields.
They're getting some bonuses.
They are getting bonuses.
Adjacencies and wonders.
Yeah, they boost your adjacencies. So now that we've placed a specialist, we're going to come up and we are going to start our combat. So up here, we are ready to attack Aksum, our neighbor here, led by Amina. And we have a Legatus with 5 promotions, 5 levels that is ready to start attacking.
Yeah, why don't you...
War, let's go, baby.
We can start talking about this stuff, because a lot of the turn-by-turn combat is going to feel really familiar, but here, declaring war is really interesting. You'll notice that we don't have a negative relationship with her, but we can still declare a war. In this case, it's a surprise war. It costs no influence, but we're going to have some penalties in that combat, because it's some war weariness, I believe. So we're going to go ahead and declare that surprise war.
War weariness by starting the war?
So Amina here is speaking Hausa. She is from the opposite side of the continent as Aksum. Aksum's on the Red Sea, and Hausa land is in.
What penalty on surprise? They
Nigeria,
said war weariness, but it's like, what? The war just
Visited
started.
Aksum
What the hell are you
about
weary about?
1,000 years. But one thing I really do love hearing in Civ games is that is the languages, and so that's the first time I've really heard Hausa.
It's always been one of the most exciting parts to hear something that I'd never heard before come to life. You know, we get so many amazing performers around the world, and getting to see now both leaders interacting with each other, it just brings the whole system to life in a way I haven't felt before when I'm either declaring war or hopefully making friends. But
well, I mean, Carl's playing, so we know where this is going.
all right, he's going to attack a commander here, and someone who's got a few units packed up, but it is a lower level commander, so I'm confident in Carl's abilities.
Yeah, so it does have a whole bunch of units, and we can attack it anyway. And the reason we can do that is because these units were able to move immediately after unpacking. Normally they cannot. I gave this particular commander, this Legatus, a promotion that lets our units move immediately, but the commander's movement is now consumed by unpacking all of these units. And we're going to go ahead and start attacking. We can see that the combat animations continue to play as this as the turn progresses, and that does matter for the orientation of the units. We do get flanking bonuses from doing attacks like this.
And for a full surround,
we have
too.
defeated this commander that has unpacked all of the units around it. These are now injured, so they all have damage to their health bars, and that's because we defeated the commander that they were packed into.
Excellent. Looks like we've used all of our military ability there for now.
We have.
So we'll grow another city, get through that.
I know a lot of people on chat have been asking about naval combat. That's been a big question, and we're definitely going to get to that more, I'm sure, in the exploration age. But do we have anything that we can lightly speak to on that?
Yeah, so there is still naval combat that you can engage in Antiquity, but because Antiquity was much more about, in a lot of ways, smaller areas, not as much naval power, that was something that we left for the exploration age. So you're going to be along the coast, you'll have some ships that can go out there, but most of your confrontations early on are going to be on the land or
do not forget that you can go upriver.
That surprise attack
you can load your whole army up on to a bunch of ships and go up a navigable river.
That can certainly surprise.
You can still get your Salamis fixed.
There's a lot you can do with naval in Antiquity.
Yeah, I think right now we're
I did that.
Very much
it went very well.
Situation.
Yeah,
I agree.
But a different map you might see more galleys and things.
So we do have a diplomatic action that was proposed to us here, so we get this option to support, accept, or reject, as we were discussing earlier, and we can see that this either costs us influence to support or to reject, but accepting is free. I like culture. We have plenty of influence to use here, so we're going to support this. While we're here over the Egyptian city,
what does it do for release this game? It'll be the 11th of February next year.
Different from ours. The architectural style
at the moment,
is different
anyway.
for each civ. And we also
do you build a boat? You can, yeah.
Things going on in the city itself.
Or you could just cross rivers with
the Egyptian quarter. This is the necropolis.
The troops being able to do that, like doing small river crossings.
You can see that she's supported her city with those city walls.
She has,
Yeah, it's excellent.
And the last thing we have to do is our merchant. So this goes back to that Silk Roads victory you were talking about before. Merchants gather resources from other settlements, other civilization settlements. You can't trade with your own settlements. And all we're gathering here are those resources. So we're going to pick the city that's within range. These are out of range. The city within range that has the most
Frostpunk
resources.
2 in 1
that's this
week.
one here.
Just a
And
few
we can
days
see
away.
we have
Yep.
a limit of trade
Not too
routes
much
to the
longer
different
now.
ones. So,
Yes.
Obviously, Ashoka, we've got 2. We already have 1 in progress, but we have a second one we can do in this one because we've advanced our relationship. We could trade with Hatshepsut, or we could trade with one of those independent powers. So Carl has selected to see where they are on the map, because we now have to move our merchant to that location and build the trade route from there. Once we get them there, it's an immediate connection, but it's this really interesting thing where now it's not just about the merchant going there automatically. It's much more about me watching. It can be about watching the merchant. You could have people attack and not let you get access to those resources by taking out the merchants before they even get to an opponent's city.
And once the trader is established, you can still pillage it if you're at war.
Exactly.
I got to build my
Why don't
first
we,
city next
take
to a
quick moment,
waterfall.
too, now that we've accessed those resources. Oh, actually, we haven't gotten.
We
them
haven't
yet.
gotten there yet.
Yeah. Sorry.
I just want. Can you take us over to the unit there, the elephant?
Oh, yes.
Oh.
So there's.
Nope.
What I really like as well is just how different a lot of the units look from each other. You know, this is the settler for Moria. You know, your Roman settler.
That's
looks
their
very
settler
different.
unit? They load all their
That's a
stuff
great
up onto
point.
an
We have a lot-
elephant?
Our unit team has done an incredible job of not only do we have the cultural variety.
Wow,
in
that
our
looked
city
either like
sets
a merchant or a military
unique
unit.
Units.
Yeah.
We also have just varied units. It may be the same warrior in one civ and another, but it's going to look different.
Yeah.
And I think it's just exciting to see that all come to life.
Yeah.
Not only was that the unique settler for Maria, but we were also able to see there that the I'm going to go ahead and put it down a barracks here. We were also able to see that unit got attacked and it defended itself.
I think it was a naval attack.
It was a naval attack, but the unit had its own health bar. Here's that, not war weariness. There it is. War weariness, as you mentioned earlier, that's because we had a surprise war. But that settler unit defended itself. Settlers no longer need to be escorted. They now have a defensive strength. They can't attack, but they can defend. And so they are not instantly captured when they're attacked by a hostile unit. Instead, they have a health bar and can be defeated.
That's cool.
So I have our Legatus here.
Yeah, they
and
could
I have
defend
a bunch
themselves
of
now.
units around it, and we're going to use one of these unique actions down here. So we have a couple of different things. These are orders for groups of units.
Yeah,
This
we're
allows
watching
you to
the
use your commander
official
to,
dev live
manage
stream for
your
Civ 7.
field of units much more efficiently, and there are bonuses for doing so.
It's on their YouTube
It
page,
consumes
and I think
the
Twitch too.
commander's movement,
Or at least it was.
And any units that execute the order consume their movement. If not all units get to participate in the order, their unit or their movement is not consumed. So an example of that, I'm going to have all of my range units do a focus fire on this warrior up here. They will get a +1 combat strength to each unit that participates.
Ooh.
If the warrior is defeated with, say, one archer attack and the other one doesn't get to attack, that archer will still have his unit movement available and can still do an attack normally.
Ah, very nice. That's good. Wow, they got wrecked.
And we see the commander
case in
getting
point.
XP.
Yep.
The Saxy Gamer from YouTube, by the way, asks if commanders have replaced Great Generals.
They have. Yes.
But they're so much cooler.
They are
But
way
they're so much cooler.
They do have similar abilities to some great general abilities. We're not going to go into what those are at this time, but they do have some things that overlap that function.
Now, Carl, did you enhance that commander's radius, or did you forget to move him forward?
I forgot to move him forward. You're right.
Come on, Carl.
This was suboptimal play on my part.
Suboptimal.
I am being distracted with questions and talking.
That is
Have
right.
him.
So when we founded
taken care of.
this settlement down here, we did get a free legion. That's because of one of those civic unlocks that we have from our unique Roman tree. We're going to go ahead and immediately pack this into the commander that we had create that settlement, and we're going to start moving this guy up. I had a maneuver promotion in this commander that allows us to ignore the movement ending terrain, so we can move all the way up here, and we can watch this commander march. And
Man, that's a
see all
lot
the
of
units
troops.
that are packed into that commander. So here we have a legion, and an archer. This changes dynamically based on the units that are packed in there, and you're able to assess the size of a force before you engage with it based on the units that are around.
Visually as well as
Right.
through the UI. Yeah.
And that commander's, you know, I guess to reiterate, just taking up one tile.
Yes.
Right there.
The
There are
packed
4
packed
units
army
here.
it's a more efficient way to move across the map,
Right.
both in terms of space as well as especially with the upgrade that Carl's put on it, in number of
Perfection is
turns as
achieved.
well.
Yeah.
Not when
And
there is
yeah,
nothing
when you
more
have
to
a
When there is
unit
nothing
packed into a commander, the commander's movement actually increases. So it moves even farther when you are grouped up like that to really encourage you to use them to move efficiently across the map.
Now, we got so many things to talk about in there. We're getting faster as we go. I do want to touch on masteries. We can see this right here that we've got our age-specific tech tree that we're looking at. Obviously, we're pretty far in. We've unlocked a lot of things here. But you see under a few of these techs, we have a mastery. And that's basically an indicator of the depth that the civilization would go to pursue one particular technology, as well as unlocking new things. I think we got a bug going on right now, but it's letting us develop further in one concept, but it doesn't unlock anything further in the tree. It's just a way of going deeper in that concept, or I could choose to move on. So it's not as many gates without removing the complexity and the choice.
Got a promotion. Let's
The
go ahead.
question about great generals as well has also gotten our chat just talking about great people in general. Can we kind of speak to how that's taken shape in the game?
Oh, here we go.
Great people are now unique to each or to certain civs. So we're able to see that with Egypt. We do have game guides up on our website, civilization.com, and we can see on there's a list of Egyptian great people. So great people are no longer a global resource that other civilizations compete with. Oh, this guy is hurting. We're gonna pull that legion back. They're no longer a global resource. Instead, they are on a civ by civ basis.
Carl, I really appreciate your ability to eloquently answer questions and fight a war.
I do my best, as we have already seen with the position of the commander.
Yeah,
it doesn't always work
Would
out.
have been better if you moved the guy up.
It-
Then this war would have gone
it
much
w-
better.
Well, it's going pretty well so far.
Chat said
This-
you were just giving
Unacceptable.
them hints, which I
Yes,
agree.
that you are correct. This legion is pretty far forward and is very hurt. So we're going to pillage this tile, which will allow us to heal.
Oh, really?
But just to clarify on the great people bit,
Makes sense.
it's not just Egypt that gets unique great
Correct.
people. There's some other.
There are others. Which ones they are, we're
Which ones they
not
are?
ready to
is-
talk about yet.
Yes.
So like civs have their own unique great people, do all civs have 2 buildings unique to them as well? That's been a question from chat.
That's a great question. The answer is no. Some civilizations have unique buildings, in which case they do have 2 of them, and a unique quarter when you combine them.
Oh.
Other civilizations have a unique tile improvement.
A unique
Now, the way
quarter.
that works is a little bit different from those standard tile improvements like the woodcutter and the farm.
That's interesting.
transitions that we've already seen. Instead,
Is he getting quieter?
when you
Bro.
have a unique tile improvement, it has to be built on top of an existing tile improvement.
I can't make him any
You have to
louder
have
than
a
this.
population there,
I think he got quieter.
and so you place down your farm, let's say, and then you are able to build your unique tile improvement with production on top of that existing tile improvement, replacing it. However, it does not replace that previous tile improvements yields. Instead, it just adds to them. And you'll see that in the descriptions for those tile improvements. And then any buildings that you have that enhance it, a warehouse building such as the granary says on it that it adds to farms, that does not get removed either. So if you are building a unique tile improvement on top of a farm, you keep the farm yield, you keep your granary yield, it's just giving you more.
It's additive.
It's additive,
Yeah.
exactly.
I think I want to make sure Carl's flying through here pretty quick. I'm sure people are going to pause through and find all the juicy bits that we're not quite talking about. I know we want to get this city captured.
Yeah, I'm trying to get through here.
We're getting, so this is great. I wanted to get to this real quick. We'll pause just a quick second. This is one of those things I mentioned earlier. resources are not traded in diplomacy. We now have this resource management. And this
Yeah.
is not only the resources I have from inside my civilization, but those I've gotten by building trade routes with those other civs. And as you can see in here, Carl can maybe choose where that salt is going to go, because you now actually get to assign them and get the bonuses based on where you want that. And now that just stacked it. So Rome's yields went up based on the salt that you put in. So you can choose at certain times to move the resources around. Some are going to get better bonuses in cities or towns or your capital. And at the top, we saw our empire level resources, which are going to affect everywhere all at once. And those don't have to be assigned. You just, once you get them, they're yours as long as you have access to that resource.
Yeah, I think here too, this gives a certain kind of a feeling of Antiquity Empire, in that you're kind of, you've got a broad hinterland that is bringing in things to create a glorious central capital, if you so wish to do that.
Yeah, and I think it's to the earlier question about the economic gameplay. We saw how the Silk Roads, getting those resources, getting access to all those is very evocative for Antiquity. There's something really exciting on resources. I guess we're not going to, I'm going to hold it so I don't get in trouble. So I guess we're going to keep going through this combat, see if Carl gets there, maybe on the next turn. Otherwise,
I think we're pretty close here.
pretty close. It's probably about time for us to see what's coming in the next era, or the next
hell
age.
yeah.
We'll do a jump
Let
through
arms yield to
age
the
transition.
clover.
We got a few screens to show you what that's like.
Oh, we're going to see a
But right
transition
now,
from the age of
before we do
antiquity
that,
to
Carl, you can go. You can
Yeah,
exploration.
So, we've unlocked the last unique civic to Rome, which is Senatus Populosque Romanus, which is the Senate and people of Rome. This gives us a series of
Cicero.
unique benefits. We get an additional social policy slot. We increase our settlement limit, and we are now back at 6 out of 6. We will go over that again when we capture the settlement here in a moment. We get a tradition, and we talked about this momentarily earlier. Traditions are social policies that are unique to that civilization.
We'll see more on that at age transition.
I'm actually going to slot this right away, so we'll see that right now here in a second. And our wonder is available in our unique civics tree. Every civ has an associated wonder. This
Building something
does
called the
appear in either
Colosseum.
the normal tech tree or the normal civic tree.
Never seen
but
that
it also
before.
appears in that civ's civic tree. So they have a different route to it that might allow them to access it earlier or in a different way, and then they can start building it earlier and potentially faster.
All right. Unfortunately, we're going to come up against time on this.
Okay.
So
That's fine.
So what would happen if we were able to capture that city?
So if we were able to capture that city, it would join our empire. It would exceed our settlement limit, which is fine. We would get a happiness penalty, but that's okay. But we would then control that city. We could choose whether to raise it, which will destroy it over a couple of turns, or we can choose to keep it. And if we were to keep it, it then has an occupation penalty, and we are able to improve it and build in it as normal. It becomes a town when we capture it.
In our demo at Gamescom, we gave the audience the option of keeping or raising the city, and most of the audiences chose to burn it to the ground.
I think there's one last thing we want to talk about, which was the crisis system, which I know there's been a lot of questions around. And you saw as Carl loaded us into that later game that the age progress had moved up. That happens as we complete our legacy, those checkpoints that we looked at.
Yep.
It happens as we get through every turn. There's a little bit of progress. There's a few other things that you can do to sort of move that meter up. As it gets pretty high up, the crisis system comes online, which is now you're not just battling your opponents, racing for the end, becoming the best, but the world is now set upon you. There's challenges from outside that you have to react to. Now, depending on which of the crises comes up and what age you're in and who you're playing as, some of them may be a little easier, a little harder, and you have to decide, are we going to power through this, or are we going to pivot and try and go around and get something that maybe we weren't planning? So we'll talk more about the crisis system, but it is that extra spice
crisis
that
system's
comes in
cool.
really
Also,
increase,
something they
increased
didn't
tension
see in
and
this
excitement at the end of
gameplay
it.
so far
I'm
is
not
like
sure
the
what kind of
natural
spice
disasters
you're
of
used
flooding.
to, but,
I don't
I
handle
had that
spice very
happen
well.
so
Yeah.
often where I've had like fishing boats
but
wash
yeah,
down river and
it's something where
farmland
again, we're
destroyed
trying
and stuff.
To think about at the end of the Antiquity era, what are the forces, and they may be dramatic upheavals in one way or another, maybe just a change in the fundamental structure of society. See Roma up here. You know, what happens with the Western Empire is you get kind of a regional loyalty starts to manifest. Well, no, it's your area of expertise. But the rise of the vernacular as time moves on.
Did I receive an early key to this game?
Yeah, I mean,
Civ
there's
7?
a whole
No.
bunch of different things that happen.
I have
all
played
from-
it, though.
There's the outside influences. There's internal.
And I
corruption.
met these people.
It got too big to support itself. There's a whole bunch of different factors there that sort of cause its collapse. And as you said, you're sort of battling the rest of
I got to ask lots of
the
questions.
rest of the world. Different challenges arise that force you to make some very difficult decisions.
And it's those things that bring us to that transition where the gameplay and the history come together, and we get to go into the next age. And I think at this point, we're going to probably be able to jump you through that age transition. I think Sarah's got a couple of caveats to give you here.
Yes, yes. So we are showing off the age transition. I will say the age transition shows a lot of information. So we have just covered up a few of those spoilers, but we are going to walk through what that looks like with you all.
And this is the moment that we see right now. This is in-game. The Antiquity age has ended.
Spoilers.
That crisis has been the thing that triggered it narratively, but also defined
This
my
isn't a
gameplay
story
experience.
game. Well, I
And
guess
now
kind of, but
I'm going to get to move on and get to see a screen that's going to walk me through all of the rewards that I unlocked. And this is giving me, there's a few other tabs in here, which we can probably talk about later. But right now you can see because of that legacy progress that we made, we've earned points. We've unlocked new things that's going to sort of allow us to make the choices and the options that we have. After we make this choice, we get to go on and make one of the most exciting choices, which is, who are we going to be?
right. Oh wow.
You want to talk a little bit about what we have option-wise here? We're going to pick the Normans. That's the one option we have available.
Yes.
At least that's not masked.
Yeah. I mean, in a normal game,
So
there
this would be how you
more
go
than
down,
just the one option.
Right.
But,
Go from Rome
but
to
because
France
of,
if you'd like to, or the
secrecy.
French Empire.
And this is a great opportunity to talk about the choices that are here and why the choices are here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
Here's the big
in
moment of
past games,
controversy
obviously, you
here.
just played straight through, and we didn't have this choice every time. Now we have this choice every single time. This is
This is
spot where
big.
you're
This is
gonna
the
always
most
pick,
important screen.
Who are we going to become? What are we going to do with
This
it?
is what all the
Yeah, and in
controversy
In
is
this case,
about.
we have the Normans. We don't have the Abbasid because it wasn't a natural unlock based on the choices we made, and we didn't do the gameplay.
Yeah, and same thing with Chola, as we can see here. So these have a lock icon on them. We're not able to select them. They are visible to us, but we can't pick them because, like you said, we didn't have anything that granted them to us through the gameplay. But Normans.
That's
are
cool though. You
available, so
can't
if we
you
were
can't
to
just
select
pick a
that,
nation
would then,
or
come
a
up and see
civilization
what they have
because you
as
just
part
suddenly
of
want
their
to. You have to kind of like
civilization
earn
kit.
it.
So let's go ahead and let's take a look at what that Norman selection screen would look like for us. And then, Dr. Johnson, what is the connection between the Normans and the Romans here? What are we talking about? with
Yeah, this may sound a little bit surprising if you're really
Play as
into the
Greece,
nitty-gritty
Rome, or
progression
hidden.
Of
Who would be the third option there,
of
Chad?
cultures in Western Europe.
Greeks, Romans,
It may
or-
not be okay. So Normans are way up there in northwestern France, and then they take over England, and we think of the Norman Knights, and we think of the Battle of Hastings.
What the hell? Going
Being
from
pretty far away
like,
from
Rome
the
to
centers
suddenly
of
Greece?
Roman power. But we're trying to think about links and not necessarily the anointed successor
Saxons?
of a place, but
Oh,
rather
maybe.
places that were influenced, inflected by this.
Anybody's guess,
think
because
in,
if two
you-
forces
we had the case
ever
of-
kind of had
of-
anything to do with
of
each other.
London,
Yes. So London is a city that was founded by Rome. It was Londinium, and this was a Roman outpost that grew into a Roman town. There's a lot of different layers of history that happen. Like you said, the Normans invade England. They capture London. It becomes a Norman city. History is built in layers, and London has layers to it. We actually, Ed talks a lot about this. He did a whole presentation at PAX West. We have that video available on our YouTube channel for anybody who's interested in seeing it and learning more details about Ed's vision for that.
That's true.
But it started as Rome. And so even though you mentioned that Normans started in France and then they go to England, and those are different periods in their history, just as I said earlier, we're looking at Rome as a whole and no longer just a single point. It's were representing everything in Rome from the 12 tables, which is the start of their government, to the Senate and people of Rome at the end. The Normans were looking at a variety of different things too. We have France, we have England, and Rome was in both of those places. That was both part of the Roman Empire at one point.
And for the Normans, they are influenced there by Rome via Gaul,
screen is pretty.
via this long chain of historical
Also, what the hell's that
connections
on
that
the
we're
right
not
side?
gonna represent,
Age
because
unlocks
to
hidden.
do so, you have
Unlocks
like
French
15 little
Empire
mini
in the
games where
modern
suddenly you're playing
age.
as Gaul, and then you're playing as like Francia, and then you're playing as this and this and this. This is
Broad strokes.
yeah. Let's just take
Unlocks
2 points
French
on this
Empire
chain.
in the modern
And
age.
again, when we talk about the Normans, do we mean
I have no idea what the
Normandy?
hell that
Do we
means.
mean the Vikings who settled in Normandy? Do we mean the Norman Knights and William the Conqueror and the Battle of Hastings in this era?
I think we try to represent a little bit of all of it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I think that this is one of those great moments to talk. Like, I love every time we talk about what civs could lead to what.
Oh,
civs,
prerequisite that you
there's
might
so
need
much
to
unpack
unlock the
within
French.
that.
Oh,
There's
so
so much
something you might
context,
need to
there's so much
work
history.
towards.
And obviously, history is one
But
of
one
those
of the things that would be nice,
that
though, is
we
that
always want to reflect. We always want to make sure that the choices that you've made
you should
in
be
one
able.
age lead into
I
the other.
think
We're
they'll
gonna
do
see
this,
some of
but
that,
to know
when we jump back to gameplay, we'll
what
see
you
the
need to do,
consistencies
what your
of
options
what
for a
does carry
civilization
into
are.
your
Like if you
exploration
wanted to
civ,
start as
that
Rome,
because
and
of
then
the
eventually
choices,
wanted
because
to
of the
become the
gameplay.
French Empire,
And some of that is the direct
it should
gameplay
tell
on
you
the map.
exactly what
Some
you
of
need
it
to do to
is
get
also
to
just,
that, and
like
I
you
think
said,
it will.
who you were. We were Rome, so this is one of the possible.
Because otherwise,
logical
the only way
choices.
you would know that is when you get to
We've
the
got one that's
Antiquity
hidden on
screen.
here. That could be a
'Cause it would-
gameplay
it would be
thing that
annoying
you
just to
do
guess.
to unlock this as well. You know, being Rome is not the only way to unlock the Normans.
Yeah,
you
true.
could do it via gameplay, which you're hiding, or Greece.
Right, oh my gosh, that brings us to our Civ reveal, which is extremely exciting. We
Oh
are
my God.
revealing Greece today
No
on
way.
stream, and we're going to be adding a game guide to the Civilization website. So
Oh my God,
definitely check
Greece
that
and
out.
an ancient
And,
civilization
I
game,
know
guys.
that a lot
I
of
am.
people wanted to know a little bit
Whoa.
more about the
Dude, I need to
icon
go
in
to
the upper
Twitter
corner.
right
I was
now and
supposed to
tweet
mention that
this.
earlier. We're going to talk a little
You
bit
guys
more. There's a
believe
lot
that?
of
Whoa.
exciting
The
player,
Romans and the
level
Greeks?
developments and,
No
and things that
effing
we're going
way.
to be able to expand on in future live streams.
Yes.
All right. Well, we are
I coulda-
already hauling along pretty well, but we did want to have a little bit of
I coulda-
time
I could have
to play
never
as Moria.
guessed.
So are you ready for that, Carl?
I think we need to actually check out Rome in the exploration age.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Sounds good. Sounds
we're all,
even
we're all
better.
running full
even
speed
better.
to try and get
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, so if we jump back in the game here, we have done our age transition and we have selected Normans. So this is Rome as
Ooh.
Augustus transitioned into the Norman civilization in the very first turn of exploration here. And we can see that this is the same Rome that we were just playing as. This is the same city, it's the same map. We have just moved forward in time.
We can even see we've still got the wonders that we built.
We have our wonders.
Unique quarters there.
Unique
Our
quarters, yeah.
Roman Forum is still here. Our palace has changed. It's now a Norman palace. Let's
Can you push in a
zoom
little bit
Yeah,
more?
we
Yeah,
can
we
zoom
had-
in here. And we can see that the buildings, the population buildings that fill out the districts here have changed architectural style as well. But the other buildings here are those Roman antiquity buildings, and those are still present. We get to keep all of this stuff as we move forward. If we look at some of our other settlements up here, we do have the settlements that we captured, all the towns that we founded, those are still here. We're at 8 out of 8 settlements, and
that's
we can
cool.
even see that we have some of the tile improvements that Aksum gets because they had built them while we were still attacking this settlement, and we captured that. We get to keep those ourselves, and they transition with us. We still have them in the exploration age. And our relationships are still here. That's
Yeah.
still part of it. It carries forward.
Yeah, and there's a few other things we'll get to go through as we go through the rest of this turn, but it's just like basking in sort of like, oh, this is the same game, right? This
Yeah.
is not, I didn't reset. I had a few things sort of change, a few things level out to keep the world interesting and challenging, but at the same time, I won't walk in and be like, wait, what's going on? Or I
Right.
don't know what this world is.
And
Good.
Okay. I think also in looking at any one of these cities, too, you kind of can see the possibilities of history. So you came to Rome via one link, or you came to the Normans via one link. You could have taken a different link in a different way, and I think that is also the case. Speaking as a historian here too, is that when you look back, there is no one destiny to which we are inevitably moved forward. nor is there one origin that we come from. We are always of multiple places and destined for someplace uncertain.
And I think in that dynamism of, how many things we could be made of, we have the age transition choices.
We do have
we
that.
get to show
There's
off.
two last things.
Come on,
jumping
Carl.
back to our gameplay, pulling you guys back in here. There are other things besides just the buildings that we have on the map that do carry forward as part of this transition. We can see here this is the commander that we had. Our other one is in one of our other settlements here. Our promoted commanders carry forward. It's no longer the Roman unique one. It's now a basic one because it's not a Roman unique unit, but it has all the promotions.
It's a Norman commander.
It's
and
now a Norman
they
commander.
don't have a unique commander.
Yeah, but it still has all the promotions that it had. And lastly, we still have those unique traditions that we were talking about earlier. This is part of our Roman identity. We still have these. We're still able to slot them as our social policies, and this continues to stack as we go forward. So as we play through an entire campaign, we're able to layer our civilization choices together to get the infrastructure added together, the traditions added together, and all of those things create a whole new gameplay experience that changes every single time
I think
you
it's
play.
a great point to call these out because in the last age we had
there's the
Civic
crisis screen right
for
there.
The
Okay.
Antiquity age, and we had the Roman.
We got
Civics
that
we
locked
could
in.
unlock traditions with. Now we have the exploration civic tree that everyone has the same access to, but now we have
the world
Norman
looks really
specific
good.
Civic tree.
It's really
we can
pretty to
unlock
look at.
Norman traditions to carry forward as we go into the next age.
And
But
you
let's
can
go
tell
ahead and
that
do
it's
age
hexagon
transition.
based,
Yes,
but
we're
it
gonna
doesn't
go ahead and start the
look like
exploration
that,
age.
but kind of.
And at the very
Oh,
beginning,
wow.
we get to spend those legacy points on the things that we unlocked as part of the legacy paths that we completed in the previous age. So again, all of this is a result of the progress that we had made, and the things that we have available to choose here are because of the choices that we had achieved.
Right, these are those points that we unlocked.
Yes.
From going through the legacy path earlier.
So we have our 4 legacy path points, and then we do have 1 wild point here, and we can spend these on a variety of different types of legacy perks. Here we have our golden age for the
It's cool that there's
for the
quests now
culture.
to help
We
you along with
also
the
have
ultimate
our
goal,
golden
which is,
age,
the typical
for,
military victory.
the economic legacy path.
Well,
that
actually,
completed
legacies,
both
I
of
guess,
those
are
already.
tied
So
into
this is a
the
great point of our legacy paths are
into
not
the victories,
exclusive. You
too,
can
in a
complete
way.
multiple. You can pursue as many as you want, and you're not in direct competition with each other. You just want to get as far and as much as you can. And now we have more options to choose from, which means we can choose to approach the exploration age differently than we maybe could have had we not gotten as many legacy points completed.
That said, you can only have 1 golden age perk.
Right.
So we've unlocked 2. I selected the Silk Roads one. We do not get Wonders of the Ancient World. That is now grayed out as a choice for us.
And I did see a question from chat regarding golden ages. Are there dark ages as well? Is that something we'll see?
There are Dark Ages as well. We're not
Ooh.
revealing what those details are, but if you do not complete any progress in a legacy path, you do get a Dark Age perk that you can choose, which changes your gameplay a significant amount in a really interesting way.
Got it.
And those are different for every single legacy.
Dark
And I think
Ages
one
with
of my
different
favorite
leg.
things
Oh,
about
that
here is
actually
just the
sounds
option to change your
interesting.
capital, which I think is,
And that's free.
And that's free, yeah. So you can decide exploration age. We'll dive deeper in it in future live streams.
Oh, and you can move your
understand
capital.
Why you want
That's
to do
cool.
that? But as I talked about earlier.
Wow, our first look
we've
at the
got
exploration
idea that
age,
there's gonna be some
ability
more
to
naval
move your
gameplay. So you might
capital,
have been a landlocked civilization,
choosing your
or at least land
legacies,
capital,
bruh.
and now you say, well, we're going to move our capital over to the coast because we're going to be people that go out and look across the sea to see what's next, and that could be a really big pivot from someone who is maybe focused on conquest just within their borders. So,
Absolutely. And I just selected that card, or that perk. So as we advance here, we can see that we still have Roma, but Roma is no longer a capital. This city has been renamed, and our palace is now here. This is our new capital location.
Obviously, so much more we could deep dive going through the exploration age, but today we're trying to focus on antiquity and age transition. I think we got through that. We're going to go ahead and jump over and take a look at another antiquity situation. Andrew, you want to tell us who we're going to see?
Sure. We're
The
going
Greeks?
Moria now?
We are.
Okay.
Oh, right. More.
So now we're gonna move back. We saw Ashoka briefly in our Roman playthrough. Now we're going to be Ashoka here, and
Okay, I'm
We're gonna
I'm
look
locked in
at
now. I
our,
want to see Ashoka.
at Moria, India. And so here is a case where we have a kind of through line,
Let's go.
more or less, within India from Maurya to Chola to Mughal.
Mm-hmm.
Now I hesitated a little bit saying through line because Chola is in a very different part of what is currently India than Maurya was, than the Mughals were based. It is only in retrospect that these places kind of come together as a political unity. But that said, here we are. This is the capital of Pataliputra here, and we've got what I really like. It may be a minor issue for
Oh my
the
God, there are
audience,
camels.
But, for me, looking at the
And where
palace
there are
there,
camels,
it
there
took
are bears.
so long to try to get good reference and talking back and forth with art to say, well, exactly what were the architectural styles
Palace looks
of
good.
Mauryan architecture. It's a mixture of guesswork and some reference and some archaeology, but I love the amount of work that goes into a lot of these little things. With Antiquity stuff, it's going to sometimes be guesswork.
I think it's a great example too. The palace is incredible, but even just looking at the land around it, the buildings, the population centers where people live, it immediately feels very different than what we had
Absolutely.
when we were playing as Rome in our other game.
Yeah.
And we got Carl exploring the map, finding a couple more of these discoveries, giving us some more choices.
I'm not going to damage our unit. I'm just going to take the happiness here. This is happiness towards a celebration. And speaking of, we have a celebration available to pick. This will give us a new social policy slot, as well as allow us to pick one of these 2 bonuses that will last for the next 10 turns. I am going to go ahead and select food because I think we're doing some early unit building still, and I don't want to commit to building buildings.
And some people probably have noticed, but this is turn 13. We are not on turn 1 in this Antiquity game, so we already got a few things underway.
We did a little bit of exploring as part of that, and one of the things that we've revealed is this amazing navigable river into a series of lakes that is snaking along into the continent here, and we're going to continue to explore along this shoreline to see how far it goes, what we can uncover.
That's really nice.
This is definitely going to be a place that we're going to want to settle as we continue to expand.
This has been the kind of thing that when I think about the mentality and the mantra we've had of history is built in layers. I am already thinking of, yes, I want a city on that coast, so when I get to exploration, that may become my capital.
On the Great Lakes,
even on a Great Lake, because it's like, okay, cool, I have all the advantages of being in the center of the continent, as well as the access to the ocean with my naval power.
Yes. So here we've completed mysticism, and this will give us our choice of Pantheon. And Maria's unique ability is that they get to select 2 Pantheons. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. We have a whole list of Pantheons here to choose from, and we get to pick 2 of these to keep. Most of these require that the city has an altar in order to benefit from the bonuses. So we're going to want to make sure to build our altar in this settlement, and that will give us whatever 2 we pick. They both apply to the same altar. There's a ton of different options here. I am going to go with ones that are going to really enhance our on-map yields. So I think I'm going to take Goddess of the Harvest, which is very similar to what a granary does. And I am going to take God of the Forest because we also have a lot of vegetated tiles here. These are rainforest tiles because it's a tropical biome. They give science as their biome yield. And so by picking those and then
Wait, really? You get science?
We'll get all of this yield benefit onto the map. And again, these are called out as a warehouse bonus, and as I was saying with unique tile improvements earlier, these do not get removed when you build your unique tile improvement. So that'll just stay there and continue to stack up.
Yeah, I think this is a great moment to call back to what we talked about earlier, that the Pantheons is the sort of the representation of the religion ideas that we see in the Antiquity age.
All right. Well, unfortunately, we don't have time to go too much farther within that. So we're gonna have to take a rest there. So we did get to see a huge slice of Antiquity today, but I do know that we do have some questions from chat that we want to try to answer, just a couple if we can.
Yes, we do have quite a few questions from chat, and just to preface, if we didn't get to every question today, we are going to have more opportunities for questions in the future. Thank you guys so much for leaving the questions for our devs. I have a few that I've plucked out. The first, I love this question. As devs, how do you pick and choose which civs/leaders will be in the game?
That is, I could probably talk another. Do we have another live stream worth of time? No, it is an amazing collaborative process.
Yeah, it's gotta be
with
a hard
our team
thing.
internally. You know, there is no one way in which we do it. Sometimes it begins with our narrative team or historians looking at who is important.
Well,
at
you
that
always
time.
got to have
Sometimes
like
it begins
Rome
with
and
our
if you
designers
now,
looking at what is the mechanism that we need to highlight.
what ancient
and we're always
civilizations
looking
would
at the
people go insane
representation,
over if
both
they
for
didn't
portions
have
of
it in the
world, for
game?
different
Like, oh hey
peoples,
guys,
for different identities.
only Greece is
and
here, but not Rome.
Working as a
Rome.
large group with all
what?
of our partners internally, with our publisher.
Yeah, guys,
even sometimes
ancient
reaching out to
China's
external
out.
groups to
What?
get,
What? No
insights
Egyptians,
and
guys.
perspectives that we don't
What?
have. So it is just it's an exciting, long, huge process to go through that I could do another stream on.
Yeah, I think for me, one thing that is important for me, and important for I think civilization as a game, the essence of civilization is that it was always global. It was not a story of, you know, Egypt turns into Greece and Greece turns, or like a story of Rome conquering the world.
Dude, they
It
should
was
just
always
do Age of
a,
Mythology where
a global perspective, even from the
you
very
start
beginning.
as
And so I think what
you basically
what
go through to
I
Egypt
sought
and
to
then
bring
end
to
up in
things
the
is really looking at
like
try to take that perspective and see
actually
what are
you'd
the,
have to go through
the
3
global
ages, so
forces going on
modern
at
Sweden
different points in
question
time,
mark. I
and
don't know
then
what
also what are the regional forces. So it may
feel like
be
they're gonna
that
have
this or that
Sweden in this
power
game.
is not, you know, influencing everything around the globe, but they really
so that's probably
are
where you'd end up.
groundbreaking or influential
Exploration
within a
age
particular
Egypt
area.
and then
There
on
is
to
no
modern
definition
Sweden.
of what's important or what's right or what's the best. It is a constant
Starting as the
conversation
Greeks.
about, is it important for the global, is it the region, as you said. I think that's
Right,
great.
right.
And I think that what's exciting about that process is we're always learning as we go through it. You know, even someone who comes in with, you know, this would be the perfect one because of these reasons, and it's like someone else has another idea, and they're just always ping pong. It's frankly just an exciting conversation to be a part of.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're definitely excited to show off a lot more of those civilizations and leaders as well. We've had quite a few questions about this. Can't pin it down to one user, but a lot of our players want to hear more about the AI. That's definitely a hot topic. Hearing about the improvements to AI that have been made. Can we speak to that at all? And can we also speak a little bit to how the AI makes decisions during that transition process too?
Right.
I love how everyone looks right at me. Yeah. I've never written a line of code for this game. No. What I can say about that is that, you know, there's been a lot of investment in the AI this time. We have a bigger AI team than we ever have had. We have more people involved, and frankly, more planning around it earlier on in the process. So in a lot of ways, it's an increased investment. On top of that, there's been a lot of design changes that allow the AI to focus in on gameplay because we're not talking about the march from, you know, the first turn of Antiquity to the end with zero change. The AI has clearer objectives, just like the player has clearer objectives within each age. So we're looking at, you know, clearer problem spaces. So from sort of a mechanical stance there, that's a great advantage. On top of that, with these pathways, these historical options, as well as the gameplay options, we are allowed to give the AI a little bit more direction in some of their choices because, well, if you're this leader, you're more likely to pick this civ because it was a historical connection or a regional connection. Or because this happened in this age, you've unlocked this, and there's a really good gameplay opportunity for you to take this one. So giving the AI a strong weighting on the choices they make based on those connections has been, at the age transition, has been a really big opportunity that we've tried to capitalize on.
That's really awesome. A lot of our players too are wondering about natural disasters, environmental effects. Can you guys speak to that at all?
Yeah, we didn't happen to see any of those really pop up here, but they are back. We do have a wide variety of them. They are gorgeous. The art looks fantastic. But there's, like I said, a big variety. We have volcanoes. We have storms. And those, they will pillage things. They will destroy your buildings. They
I
will
haven't
damage
seen
your
storms,
units,
but
and
I
they
did
will
see
deposit a whole bunch of
volcanoes.
yields on the map. And those are bigger and cooler than they've ever been before.
I experienced
so
floods
we're
when I
excited
played.
to showcase that.
Are they gorgeous? I think they are, yeah. The buildings in the
Sometimes.
map
And
look gorgeous.
volcanoes, I saw a
Building's very
specific
good.
question. Have volcanoes made it into the game as well?
They are back.
Awesome, awesome. So a lot of our players talk about tall versus wide gameplay, right?
Yes.
Do you kind of focus on a small amount of cities and really build them up, or do you kind of expand outward? I'm getting some specific questions about how many tiles can you expand in a city. We can get into the nitty-gritty a little if you're comfortable.
Sure. The number of tiles you can expand is the same as Civ 6. We've not changed the core foundation there. We have our 33 rule, where we have 33% of the game that's the same, 33% of the game that's new, and 33% of the game that is iteration and updates. So that 33% of the game that's the same, that includes how the core of a city functions, the tiles that it can work, the range of that. So you're still settling the same distance between each city. There has to be 3 tiles between each, so 4 tiles exactly apart. You're still working out to 3 tiles. You can acquire tiles in your borders farther than that under certain conditions, but you are working the land 3 tiles out. If you build a massive urban sprawl and take up all of your urban or all of your rural districts, all of your tile improvements with urban tiles instead, you're not going to be producing from the land in that settlement. You're going to have to support it with towns. That's where that wide versus tall really comes into play here, is that town and city mechanic, and then how you're using your specialists.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that, you know, we've had civs where one was favored over the other, but the team has done an incredible job through those systems, like the city limit that you have, the settlement cap, putting penalties in place, happiness, throttling your yields if you're unhappy. So I think it's safe to say both are meant to be viable based on the strategies and how you like to play.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Can we speak at all a little bit to the multiplayer experience in Civilization and sort of what that looks like, especially around the Antiquity age?
Yes. So I think we're going to go a lot more into detail into multiplayer later, but we have revealed that we have how many? What's the player count for Antiquity? Is it 5? I think it's 5. It goes up to a standard size map.
What?
And you're all on the same landmass, just as we've seen in the gameplay here.
You
today.
can only play
you're
5
all
player?
there, and that's because
Not like 6?
later on the world
Like
expands.
3v3?
That's part of the gameplay now, is that the world gets bigger, and we'll go into the details of how that works and why that works at a later date.
And I think it's relevant to discuss, though, that there is a very strong gameplay reason why those numbers are different, because
Yes.
the gameplay changes when you talk about the lands that are far, far away that you maybe aren't playing with in Antiquity. You know, there's so much that relies on that part of the game to work in a certain way. Obviously, we got some feedback. We're listening. We have some ideas that we're going to look to explore, but we definitely want to make sure we deliver that Antiquity experience so that everyone in the game is playing the right Antiquity experience.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And then a couple more specific questions.
Go
if you
on.
don't mind. I'll just go through 2. Dude with Bad Jokes on Twitch asks, if you kill a settler, does it die? Do you capture the settler? Does it turn into a worker? What happens?
I thought that question might come up. The settler now gets destroyed. You do not capture settlers, and of course, there are no builders or workers anymore, so you cannot capture those either.
Right.
Instead, you're
No
destroying
builders,
the
no
unit.
workers anymore.
Got it. And Sean Fuzz on YouTube asks, how are roads built? I saw that come in
Roads?
as well.
It's a great question. Roads are automatic to a certain range. So if you were to settle really, really far apart, I don't remember that range off the top of my head. I think it's 10 tiles. But if you settle really far apart, you will not create a road. If you settle within 10 tiles, you will create a road back to your capital. All roads lead to Rome, as it were. Even if you're not playing as Rome, the road is created to your capital. Then we saw merchants earlier, and we talked about how you move a merchant to a city and create a trade route there. If it is a land trade route, it creates a road for that as well. And then the merchant has an ability to create a road. So if you have a settlement that does not have a road in between them, because the road is going to the capital and not to each other, you can use a merchant to create a road there.
Got it. Yeah, there are a lot of very mechanic-specific questions. And one of the things that I just wanted to shout out is it took us, we had a lot of turns in the
Yes,
Antiquity
we did.
age, and we still, it feels like there's so much more to reveal. So
There is.
we have a lot of live streams coming up. We're going to be diving into the exploration age more as well.
Good.
But it really
I
just
wanna
goes
see
to
more of
show
that.
how full I think these ages feel when you play them
Yes.
as well.
Hard
Well,
to hold us back.
What's that?
It was hard to hold us back. We want to keep going.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I want to thank you guys for taking time from working on the game to come be on the live stream today. So we've been joined today by Andrew Fredrickson, the lead producer of Sid Meier's Civilization 7,
Thank you, Pete.
Dr. Andrew Johnson, the lead historian on Civilization 7, and Carl, he who is crowned with iron, Harrison.
I have no recognition or title. I had to work on that.
I feel like I have to work on that
Yeah,
too.
we got to step up.
Okay.
Well, I mean, a good one, not just a work one.
Ooh, all right, asking a lot. I want to remind you that you can follow us at civilization.com. There's gameplay guides posted up there. So after today's stream, for example, we'll be adding the gameplay guide to Greece. That's pretty cool. Follow us on our social
Gameplay
medias. I know
guide
they've
to
been putting them
Greece
up
being
over the course
added.
of the stream at CivGame on Civilization, youtube.com/civilization. Hopefully the stream will get posted to there. But we've got one more thing to share with you before we go today, right, sir?
Yes,
Deluxe
yes,
edition.
and not only that, I want to call out quickly that we have our first developer diary going live on Steam as well.
It'll be
So definitely
something
be
that
sure
you
to
can
check
buy.
that out. We're going over ages in depth, written by Ed Beach. So take a look at that. I also, yes, am super excited to reveal our first look of Hatshepsut, which we will show on screen right now.
So the return of the first look videos is going to be fantastic.
Hatshepsut's glorious reign bolstered trade, infrastructure, and artistic innovation. Her ambition to create a magnificent, wonder-filled empire is rivaled by few others in history.
Princeps orbis terrarum.
She accomplished it all by taking advantage of the powerful Nile River, a major influence in her leader design. As Hatshepsut, build your cities near navigable rivers for a production boost to buildings and wonders.
Yeah, I hope every civilization gets a video like this. I
And
hope they
be
do.
sure to trade for resources to turn your empire into a cultural powerhouse. Consider pairing Hatshepsut with her native civ, Egypt,
Or the Exploration Age Civ, Abbasid, whose cultural and scientific bonuses can amplify the power of your many wonders.
That would be cool.
or choose a different path, all your own. But whatever
Doing
you
the
build,
doing the trade like that
remember
would be pretty sweet.
to build something
Science.
you believe in.
PlayStation 4 this will be on as well. Nintendo Switch, lol. I thought they were gonna say goodbye. Wait, are they coming back? Is it over? I thought there was gonna be more. Oh, my bad. All right, this is the most interesting part of the entire stream, though, is the something we haven't seen and that we're starting to see for the first time is the transition between antiquity, between the ages. I'm sure it'll look rather similar with different options for these, choosing how to actually go from the Romans to the Normans. So I'm really curious to see how that's going to work and what options will be available, and to see those options beforehand. Like if you're playing as Rome for the first time and you absolutely want to go through Norman and then French, it should definitely tell you how you need to do that so you can work towards those goals ahead of time, which I think it will. I mean, I don't think they make it a surprise or anything like that. You'd want everything to be transparent from the start. But then with that point, you could start trying to go down the Normans and then eventually maybe change your activity, because one is diplomatic and militaristic and the other is cultural and scientific. So I don't know, if you start out being diplomatic and whatnot and then eventually get you find some sort of way to get a huge scientific advantage and you just start plowing through that, then you're going to change and go through the Abbasid. And that's cool, because you always want options. And it's cool how they are. I'm getting less and less nervous. I hope there's less people who are, confused or angry about that. It seems like this is much more better established than I was expecting. But it's only because they didn't do anything to show us what this would be like up until now. So I guess we're gonna have to wait. We're only in early mid-September now. So they've got all of the rest of September, October, November, December, January, and then February to show us what this game will be like before it's released in February 11th. So, but what do you guys think? You guys excited? Did you think that was cool? I certainly like that they went over some of the gameplay, although it was really basic stuff. Like a lot of it was just like the whole, "Hi guys, welcome to Civ." So like you start and you build your city, and then you got to build a farm because people are hungry. Okay, all right. Now we're gonna go into some more complicated stuff, and then they went from this like super day one, like showing a child how to play Civ, to then they went right into like the whole legacy goals, and then being like, boom, here's the culture one, boom, here's the military one, here's 4 things that you've got, like here's the 4 milestones that you got to get to the golden age of something. It's like, whoa, okay, now we're talking. That was a little bit more interesting when they did that. Like when they started to showcase that, the legacy goals, that's actually really cool, because you've got a goal for your civilization, which could be diplomacy and military, but then also you've got your leader goals for like Augustus or whatever, and that'll be kind of more of a story mode. So I want to see how the story mode works. The Civ mode works for the like this jumping between the ages, and then also the leader itself with the story, the civilizations, and then also the really the changes between like combining civilizations in a way. Like, you know, if you start as the Egyptians, like they showed, and going for like the cultural trade bonuses and whatnot, and then going for a little more military during that playthrough, then you could also pick a military faction too, although they said it was more cultural for whatever else, but or depending on who you pick. But it looks like I was expecting only a few options here. It looks like there's pages of this. Like this could scroll down, and maybe this scroll could just be to see the bottom of this page. So maybe there's only, what, 2, 4, 6, 8 to choose from here. Maybe it's actually more like 12, or maybe each civilization gets more. I don't know. Seems good though. But I thought it was good. I thought it was exciting. Good show? Yeah, I thought so. I think so too. Not your type of game? Yeah, it could be really hard to get started in these types of games or really understand the interesting aspects to it. But I think more and more people are getting interested in games like this and Aura. Now, a cool thing is that we've got Aura History Untold coming pretty much like within a few days. So it's going to be really cool to compare like Civ, which looks really good, to Aura. And I think they're going to be 2 very different games that also are very similar. And I think if there's something that you're missing from Civ 7 or that you didn't get out of Civ 6, you might find an Aura History Untold. And if people play History Untold and they're like, oh, that's cool, but it's missing a few things from Civ, the next, I don't know, 3 to 6 months are going to be really good for building up the hype and then allowing people who are interested in these civilization games to have like a really fun time. Like, I think there's a ton of potential here in these games for a lot of people who haven't played before to play them, hence the whole Aura History Untold coming to Game Pass. And if people play that, maybe they haven't played Civ before, and they'll like that too. Although Civ was also on Game Pass as well at some point for Civ 6. So, but I don't know. Is this going to be on? This probably won't be on Game Pass. Let me see.
Whose cultural and scientific bonuses can
The world looks so good.
amplify
And I
the
love how this city looks like it's built up on a hill.
power of your many wonders.
Or choose a different path, all your own.
I don't think this will be on Game Pass, no.
But whatever you build, remember to build
At least not on
something
launch.
you believe in.
No way. Alright, so it'll be Steam, Epic Game Store. Use code Raptori at checkout. You got PlayStation 4 and 5, and then Xbox and Switch. So, yeah, so PC and consoles. That'll be a day one thing, too. Everything's going to come out on the same thing, same day. You count 11 exploration civs when they selected nomads. You can see the amount as circles. Oh, really? Okay, so there will be 11 civs at launch. Well, but some of them might not be available at the beginning. Like, I don't know. You have to work up towards getting like the French. You can't just start as like the French Empire in the Age of Antiquity. You have to go through the Romans to like the Normans, that type of thing. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that's set in stone. And also, they did say that those were development builds, so they might not be that. They might not even have the other civilizations in there. I mean, there's a few months to go, and this might just have been one to showcase for today's stream rather than being a full build. So I don't know. But I really want to, like, this is the thing I want to just experience, like, sit here and read this stuff for a long time. Like, the tech tree, I really want to sit there and read through. Then I want to go through the stuff for the legacy goals, or whatever that was. And then also the stuff for the transition, although they didn't really show that when you're going from one age to the next and picking your next culture. Where? Oh, there it is. Yeah, this as well. So you can be Pax Raptoria or whatever. Cool stuff. Maybe they have 11 civs for all ages. Maybe. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But the more the merrier, though. The more civs they give us, the more interesting it'll be. Maybe you're not interested or have the time to play as all of them, because that's a lot of commitment. But it'll certainly be cool to fight against them, or at least see them in the game and read what they can do and what their advantages would be. 100%. 100%. All right, folks, that does it for our first look then at the Civ stream Age of Antiquity Civilization 7 dev stream. They'll be doing more of these in the future. I think we should keep covering these because this will be our greatest source now of finding out what's new with the game that they reveal. And I think it's really it's starting to look a lot better for this game. You know, when we first saw that it would be like, you know, Humankind 2 is what everyone was dismissing it as. I was hoping there was more there. I knew there would be more there, but I didn't know where it would go. And this screen is bringing a lot of confidence for it being something really cool. So hopefully, not this screen here, but the, oh boy, do I want to spend time in that tech tree. But going, you know, to the Age of Antiquity to exploration and being able to choose all this stuff. But we have so much more to see. Got so much more to see. We barely left the airport, you know what I mean? All right, I'll be back in a little bit for our next Big O stream. Thank you guys. Subscribe to the channel and hit that follow button if you want to see more of Civilization 7 or Aura History Untold. Also, exclamation point Twitch. Make sure you all follow on Twitch right now if you're watching on YouTube, because we've got a lot of games coming soon that will have Twitch integration, and we're very close to 24,000 followers on Twitch. In the next week, we'll have Frostpunk 2. You guys will be able to vote in the Twitch chat there. We've got Aura History Untold coming out, so that'll be really cool in comparison to Civ, and a few other games that will be dropping by the end of the month that are big. Mostly, I think, Frostpunk, the highly anticipated one, at least on this channel for a bit. So, I'm going to go take a break. I'll be back in a bit, and thank you very much, everybody, for hanging out and being awesome. I'll see you all shortly for our next Big O stream.